The wonderful Grand Prix track of Spa-Francorchamps is the scene for race 5 of the 2024 Michelin Le Mans Cup. After visits to Spain and to the south of France, we then had a couple of races at the Le Mans build-up, the Road to Le Mans races on Thursday and Saturday of the fabulous 24-hour event. But now we're into, well, 3 back-to-back races happening once a month. First of all here in the Ardennes Forest in Belgium, then to Mugello, a brand new venue for the ELMS and the Le Mans Cup. And Portimao has become our traditional end-of-season venue. But conditions could not be much better for racing this afternoon. And thankfully, we're doing it a few hours before a dramatic thunderstorm is expected to sweep through this region. But the lightning can often strike during the Michelin Le Mans Cup race, even in dry conditions, because there are so many drivers eager to do well in both the LMP3 and the GT3 categories, expecting 39 cars to take this start of the 1 hour and 50-minute race. And they were all qualifying earlier on today, 2 sessions that we brought you live. A long day here at Spa, but I hope that it's going to finish in style with this Le Mans Cup race with me, Johnny Palmer, and Graham Goodwin, the editor of dailysportscar.com. Everybody has been waiting for the go-ahead because the ELMS qualifying ran a little long because of a red flag in the final of 4 sessions. So now all we need is a grid for Bendham to be joined by some friends. A reminder, though, of where we have been to so far. So the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya kicked off the season, then to Le Castellet in the early part of May. 2 races at Le Mans here in Spa, and then Mugello and Portimao will complete the season. Some cracking circuits, and this always develops some drama, should we say.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Sports car racing, if you're a fan of, tedious processional racing with absolutely no incident, and there you go, immediately
started already.
66 car in trouble there. You might as well switch off now, because this is going to be, how can we put this, Johnny? Dramatic, I think, is the word we'll use, and that can be in a number of different ways. Some fantastic racing on tap in the years we've been talking about the Michelin Le Mans Cup. And all sorts of drama and bizarreness are almost inevitable in the hour and 50 minutes while this 39, we hope, if that 66 car can get rolling. It's Steve Parrow, by the way, in the 66 Rinaldi Racing Ligier, if that car can get going. This is the 7-kilometre long Spa-Francorchamps circuit, recently resurfaced, so a great lot of grip available. 19 turns, very many of which still retain their absolutely classic form. Has been substantially modified in recent years, not least here, in terms of some of the impact protection up from Erouge and over Radion onto the Camel Straight, but principally in terms of the facilities where you can come and watch it. And this is one magnificent place to come and watch a motor race. It's a magnificent place to take part in a motor race. Drivers love it, the fans love it, and it's great to see plenty of fans here in that majestic grandstand up at Radion this Saturday afternoon to watch this Michelin Le Mans Cup encounter.
And if you are a fan of walking, then you need a race of this duration to make sure you can get as many corners in as possible, because it's wonderful to watch a motor race develop from different vantage points, and Spa certainly enables you to do that. Sadly, though, for Steve Parrow, hopefully he's going to be given a helping hand to get going again. But the issue here is that if it takes too long, he's going to have to be put on a flatbed. And, well, it might be able to be taken to the pit lane, perhaps, to be started from there, if the rules allow. We're not actually racing yet, so outside assistance should be OK to that point.
Yeah, as you can see, grid is still forming up, and there's little time to go. Packed grid again, 28 LMP3 cars on the entry for this race. It's 11 GT3 cars. A number of changes from the order last time out and the time before that for a variety of reasons. And one of them is right there, the black number 92 Herpeth Motorsports. Porsche is in for this race, and the team tell me for the final 2 races of the season as well. That's great news. It's one of the other news stories around Michelin Le Mans Cup this season. It is a new pair of Iron Dames in the GT3 class in Michelin Le Mans Cup aboard the Lamborghini. And they'll be starting from third place on the grid. Celia Martin, Karen Gaillard aboard that car. But we have a new pole position sitter in GT3, Stella Motorsport and the Audi. The first time the Audi, or indeed Stella, there it is. Not that, that's a tractor. First time that we've had Stella Motorsport or any Audi on pole position in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. LMP3, it's Duquesne. A bit of an outlier, just 3 out of the 28 cars in this stacked LMP3 grid are with Duquesne chassis. It's RSGP who've been pace setters all through the season, Johnny, but just not converting that into what should, against their potential pace, be a dominant championship position.
Yeah, in terms of pole setting time or qualification efforts on a Saturday afternoon, generally speaking. So Fabien Michel will be happy with his contribution to the season, and for that matter, Adrien David as well. But from a strategic point of view, and perhaps more to the point, luck through the year, it just hasn't quite fallen for them. They only trail by 7.5 seconds from the Cool Racing duo of Adrian Schiller and David Drew, so it's by no means a lost cause. But yeah, converting a good starting position into a beneficial finishing spot has proved difficult for RSGP. The pace of Fabien Michel, though, has not gone unnoticed, because he and 2 other drivers will be held in the pit lane, or rather their car will be held in the pit lane for a longer period of time than the normal minimum pit stop reference time, which this weekend is 2 minutes and 40, did I say? Let me just check on that. I've made a note of it somewhere. But nevertheless, it will mean that the 26 Breton Racing car, which has Jamie Falvey in it, will have to spend 50 extra seconds in pit lane when they get to their pit stop. The 85 car, the RSGP car that will start from pole position, 25 extra seconds during their pit stop. And the 97 car that leads the championship of Adrian Schiller and David Drew, that will have to park in the pit lane for 18 further seconds. So all of that for us to keep our eye on. It is a 2 minute and 40-second minimum reference time, regardless of whether you're in LMP3 or in GT3. And we have great variety in LMGT3 as well. Caught another brief glimpse there of the Stella Motorsport Audi, but add into that mixture Ferrari, Lamborghini, Porsche and Aston Martin as well. So varieties, the spice of life, as they say, and we've got that in spades in the GT3 division. And that's often been the case in Michelin Le Mans Cup, particularly when we go to Le Mans, when we get an extra, injection of interest. That's not with us this weekend, but we do have, a wonderful, loyal group of teams and drivers that keep coming out for the Michelin Le Mans Cup and hoping for 39 starters, if not 38, if Steve Parra's car can't be restarted.
Working our way up through this stacked grid in LMP3. It's got, I'd say, a fair number of changes. We'll talk about some of them with some notable names, particularly in the GT3 class, joining the championship here. Breton Racing feature Darren Turner, veteran, I think he would mind me saying, so I'll say it again, veteran. Aston Martin Racing driver, driving for Blackthorn here. And in the pole-setting Stella Motorsport Audi, you'll see James Walker. Now, James has been away from competition on this bill for something over a decade, but he's lost none of his pace. Jerseyman and long-time driver coach since his GT racing days, twice runner-up in the Drivers' Championship in the European Le Mans Series and GTE. A big help for JMW Motorsport towards their title-winning run in 2012. This is a rapid turnaround on the grid because we are short of time this afternoon.
But amazingly, I saw the 5-minute board going up at, I think, 3 minutes to the hour.
Yeah. They're
going to be sending them off around about now, within the next 60 seconds. There is still a car in the pit lane, I've noticed. Yeah, 34. The Inter-Europol Competition 34 of Alexander Bukantsov, who was due to start that. But it's the start of the formation laps now, so there will be 2 of them. We were due to start at 4:05, It's probably going to be about 7 or 8 minutes past 4, but that's a mean effort considering the little bit of delay we've had leading into this.
Yep. We'll keep an eye. Pretty certain we are not going to see Steve Parrow in this race. 34 for Alexander Bukantsov. I suspect we will spot them. Just seen the flatbed coming back with the Rinaldi car. So will they be allowed to get that car to pit lane? Watch this space. But either way, they're not going to be starting in a competitive position.
Down the hill then, they go on the first of a couple of formation laps behind the lead car. And Fabien Michel will have been having discussions with Adrian David to say, we've got another pole, let's make this a maximum points haul to really ensure we're in a good spot going into the final 2 races. But yeah, they've made a habit for being in a good position and then letting it slip through their fingers. But then again, sometimes Le Mans Cup just has a habit of taking the narrative wherever it wishes. You know, the sort of greater force behind the Michelin Le Mans Cup can have its say.
Just keep an eye looking down the order here to see if we've got any outliers of any of the drivers that we perhaps didn't expect to see aboard these cars. Some debris on the start-finish straight.
On the start-finish straight, okay.
Yes. 2 formation laps, it just said. Leading car by the pit lane. I wonder if we've got a spillage there.
Could well be. I'll just run you through the grid and then we can deal with that. RHGP, Fabien Michel to start alongside Tony Wells in the Nielsen racing car. Then Shahan Sarkisian for CD Sport and Odin Gudmundsson for Team Tour. Jens Moller in a great position in the championship for high-class racing alongside Peter de Kertens, who starts the Hegerle by T2 Racing Machine. Romano Ricci and Josh Cahill for M Racing and Stella Motorsport, respectively. ANS Motorsports, Julien Lemoine to start 9th alongside Oscar Bitar for Team Virage in the number 59. Then the more motorsport crew of the Netherlands with Mark van der Snel to start the 99. Ben Stone for Breton Racing next up. He's sharing with Jamie Falvey. Yeah, we have got a spillage on the start line. You're spot on. Cool Racing's Adrian Schiller ahead of Christophe Lapierre. Then it's Horst Felbermeyer for Reiter Engineering and Terence Woodward for MV2S Racing. Christian Short in the second of the CD Sport offerings with Jacek Zielonka in the other MV2S racing car. Eric de Donker and Steve Parrow, probably not there. ANS Motorsport, and we expected the Rinaldi car alongside. Cool Racing's James Swetnam and Stefan Aust. Then it's Andrew Ferguson in 23rd for P4 Racing and the Team Virage car of Georgios Kolovos, number 44. Still in the LMP3s here for Alexander Bukantsov, but that car's in the pit lane currently, so will not start 25th. George Nakas is there in 26th spot on the grid, and he is racing for GG Classics. Then it's Tim Kresick, who had dramas in qualifying, and Jamie Falvey. Stella Motorsport with a first ever pole position in this championship. Andrew Bentley did that time, and he starts the car alongside Matthew Kerzhezhevsky, who's the championship leader. Celia Martin for Iron Dames, number 83, joined by Andrew Gilbert for Kessel, number 74. Custodio Toledo in the AF Corsa Ferrari, the red and yellow example, and Scott Noble alongside for Herbert Motorsport. Then it's Claude Bouvet in the Blackthorn Aston Martin, Jörg Dreishoff in his Proton Uber Competition 73 Porsche, as all of the cars will now go down the pit lane to avoid all of this mopping up, and therefore has a car spilt down into La Source as well. Fred Jose is 37th in his Kessel Racing number 12 car ahead of Josef Maiola for Biogas Motorsport. And finally, Nick Jones to start from the 39th position on the grid, although that will be actually 37th, won't it, with the absence of Steve Parrow and with Alexander Bukantsov forced to start from the pit lane. More complication with everybody coming through the pits at this stage.
So it's not the reason why the 34 car is on pit lane, because that car never came to the grid, and it's not the 66 car, because that car has not covered that ground.
No.
Because that car came out from the bottom pit lane. So rather unusually, they're just using the pit lane there they wouldn't normally be using here, because they're based in the bottom pit lane here. So we don't know what the problem is with the 34 car. That car has not joined the grid. Looking to see.
They are based in the bottom pit lane, you're right, but as far as I know, they'll be doing their stops in the Grand Prix pit lane. Where is the 34 car, though? Which pit lane is that actually in?
So
it's not in the Grand Prix pits, I'm hearing from Steph.
I think
it wasn't released from where they've been based all weekend.
I suspect that car is a non-starter.
Yeah. Interesting.
There you go, trying to just...
That's the alternative to using your foot and, you know, really scrubbing the quick dry into the road surface. The fire and rescue car driver is actually zigzagging to try and work it in with the tyres as he goes by.
The other worrying thing is which cars drop that fluid.
Indeed. And is it still dropping fluid somewhere?
Because, as we said, it's not one of the two that we know have had trouble yet. Was going to say, by the way, before all that kind of unwound, as they cleared the grid, there was at least one, and I think two crew members, after the first car set off, crossing the grid from the outside. I wonder if they didn't clear the grid quickly enough, there might be further trouble here. Or was that a sign that a crew member knew there was an issue with that car?
There's going to be an extra formation lap.
I think this is the extra formation lap.
And normally, no, well, it said 2. And now I think we're going to get an extra. That if we go on to a third, it might be that the clock starts to tick down at the end of this lap. So therefore, if there is a third and final formation lap, that's actually judged to be part of the race distance as well, which would not be a first. But I'll let you know as soon as that happens. Still have the 1 hour and 50 minutes as advertised. Yeah,
there's a board
on the clock.
There's a board being prepared, and it will be a further formation lap.
So that's got to be part of the race distance then, surely.
Yes.
So everybody else will be getting the information to them, either by team radio or by the physical board. And that'll be because the clear up, the mopping up is not yet complete. So again, cars heading down pit lane, or will they send them onto the main track of the start-finish line to help some of that dust and quick dry to be worked into the track surface even more? Because I suppose if all of these race cars drive over it, that will help in terms of how readily it soaks the fluid up. I don't know whether we're talking about coolant, water, it's unlikely to be water, fuel possibly, but I mean, if there's a fuel leak on a car, then you would expect to see something, a car pitting.
We have seen overfill on oil. Now that would be extremely concerning, certainly in the braking zone into somewhere like La Source, but clearly a car has been leaking on the grid. Would be reasonably easy to find out on the basis of which grid slot was it in.
Yes, that's true.
So there you go, it is going to be, as you can see from the board being held out by starts line official.
And the green flag is shown theoretically as well, so now the time is starting to tick down. So this all eats into the opening stint.
So this is the first opportunity the field will have seen to see where the spill is. They would have been told, I'm sure, on the radio to keep out of that zone if they can at this point. Most of them. So we're not yet racing, but the race has started. This is third time around after some kind of spill on the start grid that has continued through La Source hairpin.
And then seemingly just stopped, because I didn't see any other track treatment that was required. No. So it did seem to be, you know,
maybe
something
an overfill.
It was leaking, and then all of a sudden it was fine. And the fact that we've had no other cars coming into pit lane. So we're not going to have Alexander Bukantsov taking the race start. Oh, Breton Racing. What's happened to Breton Racing? Because that's not going through any of the splits. The 26 car of Jamie Falvey is actually timed as being behind Bukantsov's car now. And that's not even in the race, the 34 car. So is it the 26?
It says stopped. So maybe that car has leaked and stopped.
Not showing any sector times whatsoever for the race.
Well, it wouldn't, would it? So I suspect that might be the answer. Jamie Falvey made the grid because he wasn't shown as being on pit lane.
Agreed. So a car that was going to take the longest in the pit lane as well because of Jamie's speed so far in the championship, looking now unlikely to even be taking part in today's race. That's a real shame because it's a quick car and it's always fun to watch how it gets on, but not on this occasion. 45 minutes is the minimum drive time regardless of your driver ranking, so you have to have a bronze in your combination. You can run with as high as a gold.
All cars to close the gaps, all cars to close the gaps. Exiting T15, 2 by 2. Exiting T15, formation, grid formation.
So Boursier brings them to order, or at least requests them to order.
T15 being the start of Curve Paul Frere, where the old track feeds back in from Stavelot, or at Stavelot, if you like. And so at this point where they are now on the circuit, they need to start to show signs of getting closer to one another and being in a 2x2 formation. It's getting there, in fairness. And we're down now to 36 cars, sadly, even before the main green flag is waved. But yes, bronze, silver or bronze, gold combinations. Most teams, I think if not all teams, starting with their bronze drivers. Yeah, I can't see anybody that is going for an unconventional strategy. And that means likely to see most of these cars in at the end of 45 minutes worth of drive time. It's questionable actually on the regulations whether this all counts. It should do. Yes. Even though it's a formation lap, it does still count to your 45 minutes. And then the race is really on in terms of getting that pit stop done. Not as quickly as possible because you're time restricted. And in the cases of two remaining cars, longer than all of the others. But then when the real fun starts, the silvers and the golds have taken over and the battle can truly commence. But you have to make it that far. And that responsibility is laid on the bronze driver's shoulders. So after a bit of a wait, thank you for being patient. 4:15, so we're only about 10 minutes behind schedule. We are about to go racing for the fifth time this year, for the Michelin Le Mans Cup. We get underway now. Oh, and there's a car that has not got away at all well in the mid-pack, and now a collision right at the front.
RSGP involved, CD Sport involved.
Everybody involved.
Nielsen involved, Team Tour involved. Carnage at the back, and we've got a clash there between two of the Ferraris and that spun Ligier.
I don't know how much of that, well, not much of it had to do with a car not able to pick up the pace in the midfield, but the hit came to the pole-sitting car of RSGP, who is still stranded there, and surely this is going to be straight back into a safety car period now. We waved goodbye to the lead car. Well, it depends on how efficient this clear-up process can be, but there's also a great deal of gravel all over the road, which has been a problem for much of the day. Safety car it is.
Inevitable.
So it took some time to get to racing speed and racing situation, and that lasted a matter of seconds. I feel like there's an awful lot of replays for us to pick our way through now, Graham, to establish precisely what happened there.
Pretty certain you're going to see a damaged Ferrari. I'm pretty certain that the damage to the nose of that Nielsen car was...
it was Toledo's Ferrari, I think, the 88. So this from the reverse angle, and there's the car that just did not pick up the speed, directly in front of the second CD Sport car.
That cost them major positions. That is that the 87?
One of the cool cars, you reckon?
Is that James Swetnam?
I'll dig around for the grid.
It might be the 97 because Adrian Schiller is way back.
But the contact came from the CD Sport car of Shahan Sarkisian.
Leader to slow down to 80, please. Leader to slow down to 80.
If indeed there was contact, I'm sure there was because of the oblique angle that the RSGP car came
Watch the Nielsen car here.
So he's far right.
It is the yellow...
Leader to slow down, and by the pits, please. All cars by the pits.
It was indeed Custodia Toledo. And I'd be surprised if there wasn't some significant damage to the front end of that Ferrari as well. 7-car joints, I'm afraid, the casualty list.
Thank you to the leader. All cars in line through the pits, please. All the cars through the pits.
Yep. Gwen Boursier be ready for another summer holiday after this.
Just coming to the end of his latest one, but yeah, he wants to go back into hibernation.
Yes.
It wasn't the Reiter engineering car, was it, of Horst Feldmeier? Because is that in Feldmeier blue?
I think that's in black this weekend.
Right. Well, in front of that car was Adrian Schiller's 97 Cool Racing car, which
that car started where?
13th.
And that car is now running 25th.
All cars by the pits, please. All cars by the pits.
What drew my attention to that car was that there was a CD Sport right behind it, which will have been Christian Short, not Shahan Sarkisian. So, because Sarkisian...
If you do any report on Discord, please make sure you give race numbers, time of day and location. Otherwise, I will not be looking at it.
All the cars are going to come down pit lane.
All cars by the pits. Thank you very much. That's looking very good.
That is the instruction from Gwen Boursier. And a message about Discord as well to make sure that they were officially time-stamped. Otherwise, they won't be looked at by Gwen and his team. Shahan Sarkisian certainly involved in the Turn 1 incident. I can't tell at the moment from the angles we've been shown whether there was firm contact, but it did look like Fabien Michel wasn't just losing the car on cold tyres. It looked like there was a fair old thump there from behind to force him into that spin, and it was only Sarkisian who could have done that, because he was the closest car as they all tried to get through La Source. Meanwhile,
I just saw the Breton Racing car. I'm pretty certain on the pit. I think we were spot on. I think that's the car that caused this pillage. I think that car has realised it's got a mechanical problem and has done the smart thing of pulling into the...
Reminder to all teams, this is a 5 cars length maximum. Gaps are 5 cars length maximum.
Well, remember that Jamie's car will not have triggered the pit lane sensor because the pit lane sensor's not there.
Correct.
It is actually at the pit lane entry.
Which explains why he's shown us stopped.
Yes, and it doesn't have on my screen, a blue letter P next to his name. So he's just stopped out on the circuit,
Reminder,
as the timing would say.
5 cars length maximum between each car. 5 cars length maximum between each car.
That rather suggests that there are much more than 5 car lengths between many of them.
This is the point of the race in which I'm sure Gwen Boursier feels like he is a herder of cats.
It's tough to do when you've got marshals on track.
And the safety car will be detected in a timekeeping report. You don't have to report it. We will be looking at it at the end of the safety car procedure.
And you've got obviously the safety car picking up the race leader, but cars needing to go as safely as possible, but as fast as possible to pick up that safety car train.
One more time by the pits. Safety car will go by the pits. All cars to follow the safety car in the pit lane.
So it's Romano Ricci who leads now for M Racing, and number 13 started in 7th position. So that gives you an idea of the carnage that happened right in front of Romano. Just and it might be that the oceans opened up and all of a sudden Ricci was in the lead of the race and thought, how on earth did that happen? But I'll take it. Julien Lamois in the ANS Motorsport car running 2nd in the number 83. And then Racing Spirit of Le Mans' Christophe Lapierre is in 3rd in that gold and black car for Racing Spirit of Le Mans from Geneva.
So GT3, Stella Motorsports, despite the carnage, stay in the lead of GT3. Iron Dame Celia Martin is 2nd. Matthew Kurzewski in the AF Corsa 51 car is 3rd. The 88 car that we suspect has got some damage. They're trying to clear as much of the gravel as they can with this dragging skate, basically. It's a rake, basically, isn't it? So we're spreading the quick dry. 88 car has continued and is running in 4th place. Another lap for the safety car by the pit lane. So cars involved and the various shenanigans we've had from the bottom upwards. Breton Racing's 26 car looks like it's retired to the pits at the start of the formation lap, and we're suspecting that was the fluid that was down on the grid and at turn 1. Alexander Bekantsov's number 34 into Europol Ligier. That car did not leave pit lane, it did not join the grid. Nielsen Racing's Tony Wells and Fabien Michal involved in that clash as the race got underway. Steve Parrow is shown as a lap down.
So we're back to 37 cars all of a sudden. So they obviously got the Parrow car back to the pit lane. Here's a view from overhead. And yes, there was definite contact from Shahan Sarkisian into the back
Reminder,
of
safety
the
car
RHGP
by the pits.
car.
Safety car by the pits. All cars to follow the safety car in the pit lane.
There was another impact, by the way. I think it was the GG Classic Cars, Ligier, on that Custodia Toledo Ferrari before it hit the number 7 car. It was quite an odd line for the RHGP car. I'm not absolutely convinced he wasn't having a moment by himself before he was hit.
Well, okay, yes.
Okay, let's keep it up. We can see it from here. We didn't unfortunately see the front of the grid. I think that is a Cool Racing.
It's 97. It is 97.
Let's watch again the RSGP car as he comes to turn 1. No, you're right. It was just a hit.
Watch Tony Wells. He thinks, I've got this. I'm going to go round the round the back of the 85 car, and the 85's chasing him backwards into the gravel and pushing Tony Wells wider and wider and wider until he can't do any more. The two of them are hooked together, and then that forces Tony Wells into a spin in the 7, and then Toledo in the Ferrari has to run over the front of Tony Wells' front bumper.
There's also contact, by the way, between the number 12 Kessel car from the Blackthorn car. So multiple contacts. Hopefully not too much damage to the remaining cars there. But the AF Corsa car took 2 hits, or rather took a hit, and then had little or no opportunity to avoid the hit on the RSGP, on the Nielsen car. Messy, I'm afraid.
Yeah, well, it's a typical Spa start, because remember, everyone goes, and then the first thing you've got to do is hit the anchors sharpish and go through a very tight hairpin. I've always said that it's a fabulous way to start a race because you're guaranteed some interest, but there's a little bit of it being Spa, there's a little bit of it, I think it's fair to say, of it being the Michelin Le Mans Cup as well, which is no stranger to the odd incident here and there. And when the two combine, that can be sometimes the result.
Yeah, I'll say it out loud, driver discipline needs to take a tick up, particularly at the start of these races. But, yeah, that's a lot of races over very early. So Romano Ricci it is that leads the way for M Racing, the number 13 car from ANS Motorsport and Racing's Pit Le Mans 1, 2, 3.
I've been chasing confirmation of this regulation, and I just want to read it to you because the number of times that the field has gone through the pit lane now, the question is, does that count to your drive time or not? And the rule that used to stand in the regulations is now scrubbed out, which used to read, if the safety car has to bring all cars through the pit lane, the time spent driving through the pit lane will be counted towards your driving time, except for cars performing a pit stop. But that's been crossed out now. So, in fact, any cars going through the pit lane behind the safety car, we are not counting that to the drive time. So it's a 45-minute minimum, but each time these cars are going through, that's what, about a minute? Also, how long is it taking them? 30 seconds, 35 seconds. You can't count that to your drive time anymore.
Another piece of kit out to clear this track.
Okay, attention to the pit wall. This will be one more time safety car by the pit lane. One more time safety car by the pit lane.
Well, Steve Parrow was moving, but he's not moving anymore.
No, because of Jackie X corner, isn't it?
Yes,
and,
it is.
I think it's done.
So driving time will be measured without taking pit stops into account. Your first stint...
Car 66, we will push you in the opening. 66, we will push you in the opening.
Your first stint begins from the green light start to the timing loop at pit lane entry, and then the next stint begins at pit lane exit to pit lane entry. So This is pretty complicated now. How many times have we been through the pit lane?
Well,
twice.
Twice now, three times coming now. So the other problem, of course, is it's an entry formula. People are going to make mistakes.
Yeah. Well, you're better off saying, do you know what? Let's call it almost like a 50-minute minimum drive time rather than 45. From a team's perspective,
yes,
it's better to go too much in one direction to make sure you're not then stung at the end of the day after a trying race because you've not done your drive time by a matter of seconds.
Indeed. So who are the big losers in that? Well, there's a gaggle of LMP3 cars that have dropped into the GT3 field, including the high-class racing. Jens Müller, who was well up in the field, wasn't he, at one point in qualifying? Led the field at one point in qualifying. Shahan Sarkisian, you noted, was an early incident.
Well, he was
involver.
into the back of Fabian Michel at the first corner. So
he's dropped all the way back to 24th place. Cool Racing's Adrian Schiller, who was clearly in some trouble getting the car moving, he's down in 25th place. Remember, Adrian is one of the drivers that will have to have a longer pit stop.
Yes, that's right.
Stella Motorsports' Josh Cahill, he's dropped back into the LMP3 field. In fact, he's behind the team car in GT3. In the GG Classics car, we saw that car, George Nakas, having trouble at turn 1. And then we get into the cars that are in real strife. Steve Parrow being pushed behind the wall. RHGP, Fabian Michel, that car out the race. Nielsen Racing's Tony Wells, that car out the race. Into Europol's 34 car of Alexander Bekantsov, never started the race. And the Breton Racing car of Jamie Falvey, that car, we believe, pulling onto the endurance pit lane after some kind of technical failure coming onto the formation lap, to be confirmed. We'll say, and this may be the most surprising message of the race, and may prove to be by the time we finish, no further action about the start, Johnny.
You can't believe that, can you? I can't believe that.
Having said that, that's the start. That might not be turn 1.
Yeah, good point, actually.
So,
the start looked back on making sure everyone was in the correct position, that they were going through the grid hatchings. But yes, turn 1 is a different entity, I agree. So all of that's going to be reflected upon. We don't know what the issue was for Adrian Schiller and why he was so slow away, but he clearly then did pick up a bit of speed, although we've only been at racing speed for half a lap or so. It remains to be seen whether the issue for 97 is fully rectified, but he's made it this far, and they've now been through the pit lane on 3 separate occasions. You could almost afford to treat, well, is somebody from each individual team now going to say, well, we spent 26...
Safety car in this lap, safety car in this lap.
We spent 26 seconds in the pit lane on that stop, and we did 27 that time. I just don't think you need to be going down to the small numbers of seconds.
Reminder,
round it
5
all
cars
up.
lengths maximum, 5 cars lengths maximum between cars.
I think the Discord channel is going to be taking a hammering here, isn't it? The most remarkable thing, Johnny, about where we are now after that start is that we've only lost 2 cars.
That's astounding.
Whether or not when we get cars back up to speed we'll find others that are in strife remains to be seen.
So right, so Steve Parrow is moving again. I'd missed that. Did you talk about that?
No, I think he's done. He's been pushed behind He's been pushed.
Oh, the outlap carries over from right.
Correct.
Okay. So we haven't got the 26 Jamie Falvey car from Breton. We never had the Inter-Europol competition Bukantsov car.
Green flag.
And the 66.
Green flag.
The 60. So with 3 cars down, we should therefore still have 36 cars running. And Romano Ricci eagerly awaiting this green flag to be greeting him on the start-finish line.
He's got a great restart as well.
And an hour and a half still to go. Let's hope a little less incident from this point on. And he has got a wonderful restart versus Julien Lemoine. And in fact, Lemoine's going to lose that position to Christophe Lapierre, who goes right around the outside in the Racing Spirit of Le Mans car to take the position.
Big winner, by the way, here, the number 99 More Motorsport car. Well, where did they start the race? But Mark van der Snel is running in 4th place here.
They certainly didn't start 4th.
No, they did not. They were way back.
Gained a lot of ground there. Van der Snel was 11th. level with Ben Stone's 62 Breton racing car, which has also obviously made ground because of all of the carnage up ahead. Side by side, heading towards the end of the Kemmel Straight. And there's the 62 car.
That's the other Breton racing car.
Indeed.
There's already been a shift, by the way, in the order in GT3. Celia Martin has dropped back into third. She had gained that place in the melee, but has dropped back behind Kozajewski. Sandra Bentley leads in the Audi for Stella Motorsport from AF Corsa's 51 Ferrari, and then the 83 Iron Dames Lamborghini. We've had one Iron Dames win so far this weekend in their debut in the Ligier European Series. Marta Garcia would love to have a second. This is the battle in GT3 with some recovering LMP3 cars trying to make their way through that train led by Jens Müller. Jens-Reiner Müller already passed the AF Corsa car. Come the other delayed Ligiers.
There was Andrew Bentley in the Stella Motorsport Audi leading this long line of cars. So Bentley with a first ever pole position for an Audi in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, and therefore by definition for Stella Motorsport, who were into their second season of competition in this championship. Matt Kozajewski leading the championship with Alessandra Balsan in a cracking position. Car 51 running second, and crucially avoided all of that first corner carnage and the aftermath.
Indeed. Actually not that far back in this train of recovering P3 cars is the sister car to the Stella Audi, the Duquesne, with Josh Cagle. Perhaps notably. Oh, and trouble there. That looks like a Virage car. Oh, and that's a hit. It's the Stella car that's hit the 44. Josh Cagle into the side of the 44 car.
44 is Cagle in the Kolovsk, sorry, beg your pardon. They're scooting down the screen at the same speed, so I was struggling to keep up. But Georgios Kolovos and Josh Cagle, big collision that actually. Cagle had nowhere to go, I think, with a stranded car right in the middle of the racetrack. That's the last thing you expect. So how are they going to deal with that now at the bus stop chicane? There is Mark van der Snel ahead of Ben Stone's Breton racing car. And Horst Felbermeyer. 44 and 42 shown as in pit lane now. So if they've recovered that, we may save ourselves a safety car. There will be debris there, though, and possibly a spillage as well, because he hit the side of the car where the radiator is on the 44. So that's one to watch as the cars come through. Both have done very well to get out of that scene.
So the 44 was already around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'm afraid unsighted by the Lamborghini ahead, Josh Cagle.
There was always going to be somebody in that lineup that just could not react in time. The Lamborghini came perilously close, and then a big headbutt, which Josh Cagle could do absolutely nothing about, and it will have caught the number 44 car at a very vulnerable angle indeed. How much damage has it done to Cagle's Stella Motorsport car as well? Can they deal with it all by literally removing the front clip and applying another one?
That would be remarkable.
Stella's finished. Stella will take no further part, at least for their LMP3 car. Remember that the Stella Motorsport Audi is still, though, leading the GT3 part of the race in the hands of Andrew Bentley.
Rotten luck for Josh Cagle. One of two. Well, he's a current, and Andrew Bentley, an ex-United Autosports driver, of course. But that's rotten luck for them.
And for Selin Fielding, who will not get to drive that car, of course, either.
Romano Ricci, by the way, 2.2 seconds to the good now, puts the fastest lap of the race on his lap 7.
Here's the new nose for car 44, hopefully numbered in the correct fashion. And they'll get to see whether that, and only that, will solve the problem.
Checking whether or not there's any damage to steering suspension as a result of that chunky hit from Josh Cagle. Car has gone a lap down as a result of that. Still, Andrew Bentley leads this train of 3 cars, dealing with the recovering CD Sport car. That's allowed the Ferrari get a bit of a run up towards Radion, with Celia Martin right there as well. This is going to be a drag race down the Kemmel Straight, Johnny.
Yeah, nothing between these top three GT3 cars then, and Martin in the wheel tracks picking up the double toe from Kurzajewski and from Andrew Bentley. Kurzajewski had a little look. The difficulty for him is he's sitting on the left-hand side of the car, so really tricky to know whether there was a gap there and whether he could make a forceful manoeuvre.
A much better run through Les Combes for the Ferrari. He's back with the Audi. Is the room there to have a look? No, but he's got to go defensive. Is that going to compromise the Audi as they come tumbling down the hill to Jackie Ick's curve?
And also wanting to get involved in, I thought, more of a damaged Ferrari, but Custodio Toledo still got speed, despite running over the top front bumper of Tony Wells' car in that start line incident. Now a bigger concern is the rear right cheese wedge on this Team Virage car, fixing that.
I think they are just checking with the pit lane marshal as to what they need to do to prevent a further penalty.
Yes.
But it's taking time.
Yes, and taking them away from, well, certainly a decent race result. I was about to say the lead lap as well, but that may have already gone as well for Kolovos. It has. So Kolovos could continue, is now continuing, in fact. Josh Cahill, we know in our ears from Steph Wentworth that that car is out of the race. Romano Ricci leads with 1 hour and 22 minutes to go. This is to complete lap 8, 2.8 seconds clear of Christophe Lapierre's Racing Spirit of Le Mans car. Then Julien Lemoine still holding on to 3rd position. Mark van der Snel is able to lap not as quick as Lemoine. And what happened there at the bottom of Eau Rouge, a slow Virage car, is that the rejoining 44? Yeah, it will be, I think.
Yeah, they're just keeping out the way. See whether or not there is anything else to worry about for the 44 car. Is still keeping out of the way. Getting finally up to speed and feeling able to filter back into the train.
Meanwhile, Oscar Bitar has just pulled off a manoeuvre around the outside of Mark van der Snel. Did most of that down the Campbell Straight, and that will give Bitar 4th position. This is the remains of Josh Cahill's car, though, after that big hit. He had nowhere to go, or not enough time to react, sadly. And the Duquesne from Stella Motorsport looking very sorry for itself.
It is. It's a matter of whether or not there's damage to the crash box beyond that bodywork as well. They'll take a hit. It had to. Romano Ricci leads the Rotor Race and Racing's 13 car from Racing Spirit Le Mans, the number 10. The 84 from NAS Motorsport, Julien Lemoine and Oscar Bitar for Team Virage in the 59. Mark van der Snel, as you quite rightly say, Johnny, drops back in the More Motorsport number 99 car. Terence Woodward running well in the 28 MV2S car. The surviving Breton Racing 62. Ben Stone, fourth. Felbermeyer for Reiter Engineering. The 2nd MV2S car, Jacek Zielonka. The 29 car, Stefan Aust for Rinaldi Racing in their surviving car. That's your top 10 before you get to Auden Gudmundsson, who was one of the delayed drivers at the start. In GT3, 21st overall for Andrew Bentley in the pole setting. Stella Motorsport Audi, number 24, fending off Matt Kurzajewski in the 51 AF Corsa car, and Celia Martin in the Iron Dames 83 Lamborghini, with Custodio Toledo in the 2nd of the AF Corsa Ferraris running in 4th, and slightly more distant Scott Noble in the debuting Herbert Motorsport Porsche. High Class Racing's Porsche, the hand of Nick Jones, so further 8.5 seconds back. That's your top 6.
Speed pretty good on the racetrack at the moment. Lots of cars able to find personal bests, including Andrew Bentley as the race leader in GT3, and Kurzajewski reacting as well. So 2:23 for both drivers. And now is Kurzajewski able to draw level with Andrew Bentley? On Bentley with a clear look over to the right-hand mirror to see whether Kurzajewski needed to be defended towards, and it wasn't the case. So the Audi staying straight as a die through the fastest bit of La Source, and gets a good exit as a result as well.
Andrew Bentley driving this car very well, not experienced in GT3, and is a very different discipline. Yes, these cars are designed to be user-friendly Pro-Am cars, but you've still got to learn them. I think I'm right, he was telling us the last thing he drove was a Group C car.
Really? Right, okay. Prior to
fundamentally
this weekend.
Different.
You would imagine so, yes. This one will respond a little more readily, perhaps. It's got all the latest gadgets on there, but I still get the feeling he really did enjoy that Group C outing, though.
Of course.
Maybe more than driving the Audi R8, but he would never tell you that during this weekend.
In a push to just talk about the action we've got, that tends to be our mission. Pleased to tell you that the lap 1 incident will be investigated after the race. Let's ignore that for now and crack on with the racing we've got going on here. And it's good racing. Andrew Bentley having a good run here in that Audi, fending off experienced, rapid AF Corsa Ferrari. And the hard-charging Iron Dame, Celia Martin. What are we looking at here? This is the Kessel Racing Ferrari, a little over-ambitious there from the 74 car. Went by the Blackthorn Aston Martin. I think, actually, did it collect it on the exit there?
Overcooked into the first bit. Oh, nearly. But the Aston Martin had to take very much avoiding action there.
I'm going to tell you, I think that warrants an unsafe rejoin.
Yes.
That could have ended that car's race had he not taken avoiding action.
Too right. And yeah, the 74's having a bit of a moment here. Andrew Gilbert, maybe as a direct result of what happened, his own error.
Oh, there's another moment for Odin Gudmundsson. He's been turned around into the bus stop. So Gudmundsson was running down in 11th place and he rejoins in 17th. It's not going well for the Icelandic racer from Team Tour.
Claude Bouvet, that was, in the 91 Blackthorn Aston Martin, who had to basically drive off the track
to
avoid any contact, or, yes, the contact that he wouldn't have been at fault for. It's like driving on the road, isn't it? You've always got to make sure that you're not making or forcing other road users into positions they don't want to be in.
Indeed.
So that will be looked at again, I'm sure. Andrew Bentley leads in GT3 by 0.7 of a second. Romano Ricci has nearly a 5-second lead in LMP3. As here's Oscar Bitter installed for the opening stint in car 59. So at a later point, quite when that might be, we will wait and see. But Ricardo Garcia will take over, the Brazilian.
Battle here between the recovering Kessel Racing car. Both the Kessel Racing cars tail of this field at the moment, trying to get onto terms with the Proton Huber Porsche.
Yeah, as for the 45-minute minimum drive time, I can easily see some teams saying, well, let's call it 48 minutes to cover off any potential change from those 3 visits down the pit lane. And it shouldn't really have too much of an impact, as the orange and purple Porsche, the Uber car, Uber competition car, runs a touch deep into Bruxelles corner. Maybe flustered by the attack from behind from the Gilbert-driven Ferrari.
Now on the charge, Oscar Bitter finding pace in that Team Virage 59 car, the undelayed Team Virage car. Fastest lap of the race into the 2:15s and a second and a half quicker than the ANS Motorsports car of Julien Lemoine. He's chasing. Still an hour and 14 minutes of this race to go and plenty of action still to come.
There is no change so far between Jörg Breishoff and Andrew Gilbert.
No, Gilbert looking to find a way by, but it is already a very wide Porsche, but he's made it even wider. That's almost a push through Les Sources from the Ferrari on the Audi.
Yeah, and Celia Martin still very much with them as well. So the top 3 totally together, heading down towards Eau Rouge, 12th lap. And probably 10 minutes or so, maybe a bit more away from the first opportunity for these cars to make a pit stop. But if they're in a good groove, you don't want to change that necessarily.
Martin looking racy here, and that move into turn 1 has actually cost the chasing Ferrari some ground too. Andrew Bentley's Audi is putting back into the clutches of the Iron Dames.
Elsewhere it's tight between Ben Stone and Horst Felbermayr for 7th and 8th places. But as the top 3 in the GT3 division work their way through Bruxelles corner, Celia Martin will be assessing precisely where her Lamborghini might be a little quicker than the Ferrari. Good to have 3 manufacturers, though, represented in the top 3 spots, and they seem very evenly matched.
Indeed.
The Audis perhaps a surprise to 1 or 2, but they've been gaining momentum in the championship, shall we say. It feels like they've been certainly finding time here and there. Every track we visit is very different, but sometimes things just click.
Stella have been struggling with having a consistent driver squad for that car.
Well, there's that too, yes.
And that does mean that there's lots of lessons learned at one track and not carried on to the other. But Andrew Bentley doing a fine job here. Set pole position has not been headed. And we've got another quality driver to come in James Walker. This is looking good for the squad based close to Silverstone. Impressive facility they've got. They run GT cars, engineering business there, historic race preparation, tuned road car, 1,000 horsepower four-wheel drive rolling road amongst the kit they've got there.
Meanwhile, the Hegeli car down the inside of Pieter de Curtens. One thing I've just spotted is that Sebastian Grauland now drives the 43 into Europol competition car. I didn't think he'd started. No, he didn't. Tim Kresick started that car.
Okay,
so that was a sneaky driver change during one of the visits to the pit lane, which we didn't necessarily, I didn't spot at the time. Grauland is making ground now, up to 10th position. But he should be faster than, I think everybody else in the race is currently bronze. So they've obviously spotted an opportunity.
Is Romano Ricci still a bronze?
He is.
Okay.
Yeah.
He leads, by the way, by almost 4 seconds still, so it's been a cracking restart from him.
The downside to that strategy of doing a driver change then is that the rule says that when you do your long pit stop for 2 minutes and 40, you've got to do fuel and tyres and a driver change to make it a complete stop. We've visited that rule many times before.
Which may force them to have a yet another stop.
Yes.
Because you've got a fuel.
Well, the other thing is, how long did they actually spend in pit lane? And they didn't do it. They didn't do it in the most recent visit to the pit lane because it only took them 35 seconds. But they won't have spent 2 minutes and 40 seconds doing it.
Yeah. The only other option is that there is some kind of timing fault.
Well, that's also possible. But Grauland's making a lot of ground.
Yes.
And with the greatest of respect for Tim Kresick, I wouldn't have expected him to be up into the 9th position and gaining all those spots. And now pulling away from Pieter de Curtens. But it might be Tim Kresick has really found his groove in this part of the race.
Stadio Toledo, by the way, dropping off this lead battle for GT3. It's still a 3-car smash fest. Romano Ricci is losing ground now to Christophe Lapierre. Racing Spirit Le Mans car beginning to catch. He's taking Julien Lemoine and Oscar Bittard with him.
Just trying to see if I can interrogate the pit stop times for car 43 and work out exactly when that driver change, if it was made, on which pit stop it was made, because they've been in the pits 3 times now. Everybody has, under instruction at least.
Well, the point of interest, we start side by side here.
For 2nd and 3rd in GT3, Kerzhezhevsky under massive pressure from Celia Martin, who had a much better run out of La Source and down the hill to Eau Rouge, but couldn't make that work in the end.
We talked pre-race, Johnny, about these pit stop handicaps. Rather remarkably, of the 3 drivers that would have affected, 2 of them are at the race.
Yeah.
Just Adrian Schiller now. This is what happened to cause that side-by-side. That was a dive up the inside. Ferrari moved to the outside to defend, and frankly, she just played him a lovely dummy, and that was easy for Celia Martin, but he got the better run through the turn to be able to retake the position. He's now back with Andrew Bentley. You see these three cars are rapidly pulling ahead of the fourth place, of course, a Ferrari now. This is battle for the lead in GT3. It's 21st, 22nd, 23rd overall. All bar 1, 2 of the delayed LMP3 cars are now through and away. So they are involved in their own battle. The only outliers are George Nakas in the GG Classics car is way back from this trio, and the much delayed Team Virage 44 car, which sits behind all of the GT3 cars and is a further lap down.
Growland's just done a 2:15.8, so that is faster than everybody else ahead of him.
And also quick, Christophe Lapierre is now under 2 seconds from Renato Ricci. We're not long away from having a proper lead battle here for the overall. It's taken a while for that 4-second advantage to be clawed back by the chasing pack, but it's about to happen. So 67 minutes remain. Potential here for some interesting strategy. Do you risk having misread those rules, or do you go long?
Just checking the rule on the pit stop when you are doing the timed version. So the reference pit stop time will be, etc., etc. The pit stop must comprise the following operations: refueling, tyre change, driver change.
Yep.
So when you do your 2 minutes and 40-second stop, as is the case for most, all those three things have to be done as well for it to be a legitimate pit stop. As here are the top three, they still can't separate them. And this is just like we had in the Ligier European Series race earlier on.
The Ferrari gets phenomenal traction out of Le Mans, but just can't quite get alongside the Audi. Silvio Martin back with the Ferrari now. All three of these drivers doing a phenomenal job here. Racing quickly, gapping the rest of the field. We've so far seen no real contact between any of the three of them. And this is the battle at the moment for the podium positions with 1 hour and 6 minutes to go. Credit to Andrew Bentley, leading a pair of drivers more experienced in this machinery than he is, under great pressure, and did so with gaggles of LMP3 cars looking to make their way by. At least Andrew is aware of the capabilities of P3 car and will know what they're able to do.
True. Yeah, and that can often be very, very useful. If you've driven the other car that is wanting to get by, then you know
where he can do it easily.
Where they can do it easily, where they want to do it, where they might try something, perhaps, and just make sure you're clean out of their way.
Gordon Gudmundsson on his recovery drive catches 2 cars ahead. Excuse me. This is 15th, 14th, 13th.
So down the Kemmel Straight will go this fight for 13th spot. And having a little look there, Christian Short. Remember, he didn't get anywhere near as good a race start as he would have wanted, because he had to get well out of the throttle because of the slowing Adrian Schiller car. And Adrian Schiller not having a great race up until this point, 16th. So behind this trio, effectively, and you've got Schiller and James Swetnam running together. Still the same order. Andrew Bentley was a little off the apex, though, as he pulled out of Eau Rouge and up Radion. In the GT3, Celia Martin's still on the tail of Matthew Kurzaszewski. Kurzaszewski has had race wins already this year, leads the championship, but important not to push too greatly to lead the race on every single lap. You don't need to do that. You just need to be in the hunt until the car is handed over to Alessandro Balzan, and then the fireworks can truly begin.
That will be fun and games. Confirmation, by the way, from Steph that the enigma about Jamie Falvey and the spill at the start of the race, what it was, that car, it was a fuel spill from the Breton racing car. They then had a clutch issue, which is why they've pitted to retirement. GG Classics, George Nakas, that car on pit road. So two of the GT3 cars, the 12 Kessel Racing car for Fred Jousset, Josep Miola Comadara, in the Biogas Motorsport 23 Ferrari. They're both on pit lane too. So we're just 3 minutes outside the hour remaining. Further battle here. This is the 74 Kessel Racing car. It's earlier almost had an impact. Trouble for the 11. CD Sport Christian Short was in that three-car battle, but he's dropped off that battle now. Down to 18th spot.
I'm now hearing from Inter-Europol competition that actually Sebastian Grauland's always been in that car from the start, but I'm a little puzzled by that because Tim Kresick was labelled as the starting driver on the grid. So there's still some time to run on that as we continue to investigate, but Grauland's continued to make ground in terms of time, although he's become a bit lodged now in 9th position, but has done a 2 minutes 15, which was at the time faster than all the cars ahead of number 43. So after that spin at the first corner for the CD Sport car, now up and over the top of rally on the GT3 cars can continue on their merry way.
It's an interesting example, these three very different cars, just where the performance is delivered for pretty much identical lap times. Looks like the Lamborghini's got great straight line speed coming over the crest off Radion, is able to draw closer to the Ferrari with the toe, of course. But then, as I said a little earlier, great traction out of Les Combes for the Ferrari, which puts him back into contention with the Audi ahead. More GT3 cars pitting, and the Team Virage 59 car of Oscar Bitar is the first of the leading group to roll down pit lane.
What's the gap between the top two? It's not much at all. You don't really need a timing screen, but 1.1 seconds, 1.2 seconds through the latest split. Julien Lemoine is finding a bit of speed as well. In fact, the last lap that he completed was faster than these two. 4 or 5 seconds adrift.
We were talking about a little earlier about potential for a repeat win in this race for the Iron Dames. Well, there's potential for a repeat win for the team that runs the Iron Dames in the Ligier European Series. It's M Racing. They lead this race overall. Good run from Romano Ricci to this point, but Christophe Lapierre is increasingly keeping him honest. There's the third place car in the background. That is Julien Lemoine in the ANS Motorsports 84 car.
The other news from Inter-Europol competition land is that the 34 car is now in the race. It's being driven by Rick Cohn, who is Alexander Bukantsov's teammate, but the 34 could not take the race start with everybody else. It's 14 laps down on the race leader, but they're at least going to get, you know, some mileage to try and work out precisely what the problem was. Engine related, I think. Let me just have a look. An engine issue, yes. Okay. It's been called as so far. So we're back again to 36 cars running currently.
Got a Motorsport pit for the lead in GT3, so the first significant runner down pit road. Andrew Bentley will hand over this car to James Walker. So it is an AF Corsa 1-2 because Celio Martin has dropped behind the 88 car. Now, how's that happened?
Celio Martin, yes, behind Toledo now. So it's an AF Corsa 1-2. A lot of teams, though, pushing the window to the 50-minute marker rather than 45. So after an extra formation lap, we finally got the Michelin Le Mans Cup race here at Spa underway, but sadly the racing conditions didn't last too long after a collision to the RA's GP car of Fabien Michal. A fair old thump from Shahan Sarkissian, who was as tight as possible to the apex on the right-hand side at La Source, but could not avoid contact. And you've got a spinning car that was the pole-sitting car right in the middle of the track, and so many others needing to make avoiding action. Also, Adrian Schiller's number 97 Cool Racing car did not pick up the pace as we might have expected. So look to the inside line on the approach to La Source. It's the red and yellow car of CD Sport just clipping the rear of the RHGP, and with that, as Fabien Michel reversed, or the momentum took him in that direction, Tony Wells was then also pushed into a spin and into retirement, effectively, because he was then run over by Custodio Toledo's Ferrari. At least that did lots of damage to the nose of the number 7 car, and Tony would take no further part. Nip and tuck between Racing Spirit of Le Mans car of Christophe Lapierre and, at the time, Julien Lemoy's car of ANS Motorsport. That car has subsequently pitted. But Romano Ricci left as the race leader. Also some good dicing between the Moore Motorsport car of Mark van der Snel and Breton Racing's Ben Stone. And then early on, to back up that great pole lap, Andrew Bentley's driven really well in the Audi. Josh Cahill could not go left or right of the stranded 44 car from Team Virage, so was left with little option but to try and scrub the speed off, but it wasn't sufficient. And a big old thump into Georgios Kolovos's stranded car, who put Josh Cahill out of the race. A real shame that for Stella Motorsport, and no drive today for Senan Fielding. However, the car he hit, number 44, is still running and still in the hands of Kolovos, in fact, from Team Virage. Plenty of more action in what is a hot afternoon here at Spa at the end of the Kemmel Straight. Celia Martin leaving her braking to the last possible moment to snatch second place away from the Ferrari of Matthew Keselowski, albeit briefly, because they were then door handle to door handle down the hill towards Eau Rouge, and the American driver would take the place back again from Celia in her Iron Dames Lamborghini. Lots of pitting cars whilst we concentrate on these highlights, but the top 3 in GT3 prior to the pit stops were inseparable, and Romano Ricci has now pitted from this, the race lead.
Well, Johnny, on pit lane, amongst the pit stoppers in the moments while you were calling those highlights, was indeed Celia Martin, handing over the 83 car to Karen Gaillard. James Walker back into the race, and this is the reason why that car dropped back. It was a spin in the bus stop from Celia Martin. Went round again before pitting, but that handed a 1-2 to AF Corsa's Ferraris at that stage. Stella Motorsports have handed over the Audi to James Walker, but that car was longer on pit lane than I think it should have been. 2 minutes 49 against 2 minutes 40 odd. Looking at least one car that I think may be in trouble for a short pit stop. That's the Proton Hoover car. 2:29 on pit lane, that's not long enough.
No, needs to be 2:40 or longer.
This is the pair of AF Corsa cars. Came in from the lead and second, courtesy of the Stella car stopping a lap or so earlier. Now, keep an eye on exactly how quick they are, or efficient rather they are on pit lane. Should be around the 2:40, 2:41 mark. Stella, as I say, 2:49, and that might cost them dearly. Alessandro Balzan is out in a 2 minutes and 41, spot on from them.
And you would expect so. They've had a good season to this point and are neatly placed in the championship as well. And now we really get to see what the 51 car might be capable of.
I can tell you that pit stop for Stella has dropped them to 4th place, but James Walker is right on the tail of Karen Gaillard in 3rd, so it's AF Corsa's Ferrari's 1-2, 51 from 88. Then the 83 Lamborghini, but an up-to-speed James Walker right with her.
Christophe Lapierre shuffled to the leading car, but now that car is in pit lane, number 10. As now it'll be Sebastian Grauland then, who actually the team tell us from Inter-Europol competition, he's been at the wheel of the car from the start. And will hand over to Tim Kresick just as soon as they want to, but they've got to be mindful, of course, that Kresick's got to do his 45 minutes as a minimum.
Nothing wrong, by the way, with the 34 car now, whatever the engine problem was, because Rick Kern just did the fastest lap of the race, a 2:14.4, just bettered by a few thousandths by Colin Noble, who's now aboard the 77 Team Tour car and to recover after a couple of tricky moments for Odin Gudmundsson. Colin looking to recover his progress from 15th in the order. Watch this space.
Adrian Klossmanil's done the fastest final sector of the lap as well, so the Cool Racing 87 is really charging hard. 97 on the other hand, which just could not get away at the start of the race. I can't now find. Car 97 has gone missing. Is it right? Oh, it's because it's way up there. That's why, in the hands of Adrian Schiller, because they haven't yet made a stop. Yeah, okay.
That's right.
So it's somewhat of a false position. I wasn't looking that far up purely because it's not had a race to write home about so far.
But remember, when they do stop, they've got a pit stop handicap to serve for Adrian.
There is that as well. Yeah, and they will have been wishing that Adrian had not had such a strong season, or certainly not have been as quick as he has shown during his stints. And there's been quite a lot of data that has been chewed over, if you like, by the race officials to introduce these longer pit stops for 3 individual cars, 3 individual drivers. So we're talking about the 26 Breton car, which is actually not in the race, the 85 RHGP likewise. So we only need to concern ourselves about the 97 car of Adrian Schiller. He'll hand it over to David Drew, but we'll have to spend 2 minutes and 58 seconds in pit lane rather than 2 minutes 40.
So 52 minutes remain. Into Europol's 43 car leads the race, owes a stop. Adrian Schiller, Cool Racing's 97, second place, owes a stop. There's the all-black Reiter engineering car, so that car not in followed by a livery this weekend. It's got the graphics on the side. Just keeping an eye on what's going on with GT3 as well. Alessandro Balzan in control, I feel. Custodia Toledo, a somewhat distant second, 12 seconds back, but has got his mirrors full of Karen Gaillard, who is pulling away at the moment from James Walker.
Samir Ben is now in the Hegeli by T2 Racing Duquesne, so Pieder de Curtens, the Swiss, getting out for a fellow countryman, I should say, Samir Ben, and car 67 for Hegeli. Is still up, well, still being shown up there, but I don't think the pit stop's been taken into account yet by timing and scoring, so should fall down a little more.
Another fastest lap of the race as the number 2 car damaged in the first incident at the start of the race in the hands of Shahan Sarkisian. He's brought the car down pit lane, and it is a new nose section for early race damage. New fastest lap of the race, it's another one to Colin Noble. He's the first driver under 2:14. He's recovered 1 place, he's up to 14th place. His next target is Felipe Fernandez-Laza in the Rinaldi 71 car.
No, I've now realised why Samir Ben is so highly placed, because they did a pit stop which was 2 minutes and 2 seconds, when you should be spending 2 minutes and 40 on pit road. So it's massively elevated them up the field, but that's a big breach of the regulations as far as I read it. So there's going to be a penalty, and quite a lengthy one, to right that. Maybe they just want some time in the sun.
It's possible. Rick Kern, by the way, betters Colin Noble's time. It's a 2:13.8. He's in the delayed 34 car, down in 34th place, and unlikely to progress further on pace, at least. In fact, impossible to improve on just on pace, but he's out there and putting in quick lap times as well. That's notable. Theodor Jensen in the surviving Breton car, also going quickly.
Tidy little manoeuvre though. Oh, actually on a car that was eventually pitting, but Max Meyer in the number 29 MV2S racing car outbreaks the pitting car, which was the 97 of Adrian Schiller, and then ahead of Schiller, Sebastian Grauland has also come in his Inter Europol competition car, needing, of course, to get the pit stop done and allow Tim Kresick to do his 45 minutes. So that is about right. Schiller in the 97, handing over as a bronze to the gold-rated David Drew. Tim Kresick, on the other hand, because they've reversed the strategy, it seems, at car 43, Kresick's the bronze and will now take car 43 to the checkered flag.
Under 50 minutes to go. in what has been incident-scarred and incident-packed so far, as usual, for the Michelin Le Mans Cup. So, of the cars that have pitted, the lead car that has completed a pit stop and done it legally at the moment, from what we can see on timing and scoring, is the M Racing number 13 car. Alexandre Coigneux in 4th place, because Samir Ben absolutely has not completed, that car has not completed a full pit stop. And the 2 cars ahead are in the process of doing just that, and one of them has got a pit stop handicap to serve.
Team manager for Kessel Racing's Ferrari number 74 being summoned to the steward's office to race control. That's not immediately obvious why.
Andrew Gilbert still shown in that car as he has been throughout the race, so I would presume that has got to be some kind of
good
driver indicator problem.
Yes, after the pit stop it should have changed to Fran Rueda, and if Rueda's in the car then he may well have been asked to change the driver ID, and that hasn't happened yet.
Samir Ben shown as the leader, but we think he's got a substantial penalty to come. Must have a pit stop in 2 minutes and 40 seconds and no less. And their long pit stop, where that driver change was taken, is almost 40 seconds short of that. They've got a huge penalty coming.
Yeah. Well, it's taken them to the race lead, which might have been sort of all part of the plan, but Pierre de Curtens, although it was a solid opening stint from the Swiss driver, not good enough then to bring that car out as the race leader and lead by 4.7 seconds. So we can pretty much say Alexandre Coigneux is the net race leader. We'll assume that is the case. Meanwhile, what happened on the exit of turn number 1 with the 59 car? Actually, it was more to the point of the... Was that 50? Oh, the 12, right, okay, of originally Fred Jose. And that's now been taken over from David Fuminelli.
And, gravelly moment for the Iron Dames Lamborghini. Now James Walker is dropping off the back of that car. So does not appear to have the pace in the Audi at the moment that Karen Gaillard has in the Lamborghini. And actually he's been caught by Nico Menzel, who's in the high-class racing Porsche this weekend. And the Jerseyman is under real pressure. There you can see. There's the car, run last year by Team Parker Racing, this year in the hands of high-class racing. And the Herbert Motorsport car of Jason Hart right there as well. So this is a 3-car GT3 battle. One Audi, 2 Porsches. Battle for 4th place. The car that led through the first stint. Stella Motorsports Audi.
Headlights very bright on the Porsche in comparison to the Audi as they reach the end of that particular lap. It's almost like they're on full beam from Nico Menzel. Sorry, not Menzel.
It is Menzel.
Oh, it is Menzel, beg pardon, for high class. I was getting confused with the paint job, which I associate with a different team, but they're running as high-class racing this year. James Walker just ahead there. He goes in the Audi, past the fixed cameras on the approach to Eau Rouge itself, an indication of how hard they're pushing in the GT3 category, let alone LMP3. And now, trying to thread the eye of the needle is Samir Ben. Might be on the cusp of a penalty, but still willing to put the car in some hairy spots in order to retain this on-the-road race lead.
Menzel gets the position, and in trying to position the Audi to have another go at it, leaves the door open, James Walker, for the Herbert Porsche to get onto terms. He's under pressure from the rear again, from another Porsche. Deja vu for the Audi driver. Is he going to be able to do another braking there? Not there. Samir Ben leads the race from Alexandre Coigneux, but we know the heavyweight by 2-2 racing car has likely got a substantial problem to come.
Yeah, still waiting for the message on the screen about that. There's a warning flag now to Minea Stefan, who drives car 44 for Team Virage, about track limits. That's James Walker. Has all around the back of his large rear wing on the Audi R8, the formerly driven Romano Ricci car. That is the 13M Racing, isn't it, for Alexandre Coigneux, who should be eventually waved into the race lead.
Looking to push on because he's been reeled in by Marcus Fossard behind the Racing Spirit Le Mans number 10 car, catching the M Racing car here. If he can get that car through this GT3 traffic, that gap is going to be, well, around a couple of seconds, under a second, but then he had the traffic to deal with. But he's definitely making progress here.
Fossard dealt with James Walker's Audi nicely in the braking area there. Walker now under pressure from Jason Hart in the black and gold Porsche from Herbert Motorsport. And he picked James Walker off around the outside. That would be a tough ask. Had to realign the approach out of La Source corner, but this Porsche looking a tad quicker than the Audi this deep into the race. We've still got the better part of 3/4 of an hour still to go, of course, as they go to that compression point at Eau Rouge and scrabble away up the hill towards the kink onto the Kemmel Straight. The Audi then in GT3 is currently 5th, ahead of the 6th place car from Herbert Motorsport.
Car 11 drive-through penalty for causing a collision. That is the CD Sport car of Clarence Chapard, currently in 16th place. That will cost him 4 or 5 places. Also, car 71 gets a similar drive-through penalty, again for causing a collision. That is the Rinaldi Racing car that is now in 12th place, as Felipe Fernandez Larza has just been passed by Colin Noble, who's up into 11th slot now, but Larza will drop further back.
Yeah, so but you get the feeling there's a long list of investigations that are having to take place, and in the correct order generally as well, as they hit the in-tray. That's how, as they deal with them.
And as we know, they've already said that the Turn 1 incident will be looked at after the race. There may well be more to come post this race. We'll call the race as we see it and as it goes, but be aware, keep an eye on series social media and website, and your favourite news website for sports car racing. It's only one of those.
There's 3 letters involved, I think.
So it's a C, an S and a D.
Yeah, but not necessarily in that order.
No. So we'll keep you up to date with anything we hear from race control in the stewards' room. And I think we're going to hear things from race control in the stewards' room.
Yeah, that's a fair assumption.
Fossard, by the way, is closing. It's 1.1 seconds through the previous timing beam. It's now 3/4 of a second for what is currently 2nd place, but will be the lead. Leaders absolutely carrying the potential for a hefty penalty, way under their bogey time for the compulsory pit stop. Yet to hear anything about the Proton Huber car, either. That car more than 10 seconds under. Car 10 a drive-through penalty, starting grid infringement. That is the Racing Spirit Le Mans car. That is the 3rd place car, potentially 2nd place car. That's disaster for them.
Starting grid incident, right. So were they out of position? Were they judged to be at fault leading into the first corner moment? I'm trying to remember where the number 10 car was actually supposed to start. He was Christophe Lapierre, 14th. So we weren't really paying attention to cars that far back.
That's going to drop them out of a podium position.
Frank Chapard serving a drive-through. Was that one of the cars, the number 11?
Yes, that's
right.
correct.
So CD Sport has gone through, and the 71's done a drive-through as well in the hands of Felipe Fernandez Larza. So that's the Rinaldi and the CD Sport cars, which ticks off a couple more.
With all those dramas played, Colin Noble, we said to keep an eye on him, he's back up into the top 10, trying to chase down the Writer Engineering car of Nicolas Bon, who is 2 seconds ahead of the Team Tour car. 39 minutes to go. Samir Ben, Huggley by T2 Racing, leads the race in the 67 Duquesne, but will be penalised, no doubt. Alexandra Coignot, M Racing, number 13, long-time leaders, just 4 seconds behind, with half a second behind him. The Racing Spirit of Le Mans number 10 car, that car is getting a drive-through penalty. 4th place, Paul Rajani, in the ANS Motorsport number 84. They've had a strong run for 7 seconds back, with the car ahead needing a drive-through penalty.
Over the line then goes Cugno, under pressure from the number 10. However, drive-through penalty to be served by Marius Fossar. You generally get 3 laps to react to that, so they're going to be staying in that position for a bit.
To me, one of the performances of the race to this point, Johnny, is the car that's still sitting in 5th place, and actually in reality is 3rd. With penalties to come, and that is Max van der Snel Jr., the father and son, the dad and lad effort from More Motorsport, number 99. After making up places at the start, they've not lost them. Great pace from that team this afternoon.
Learning more and more about the championship, perhaps,
absolutely,
with every round, and what not to do, and what to definitely do when to get you into a good spot midway through the race.
Well, they did Prototype Cup Germany last year, stepped up to the Michelin Le Mans Cup this year, and they're learning fast, and they may well become a force. Car 44, it's a drive-through penalty, track limits. That is the delayed Team Virage car of René Stefan, and I'm sure that part of that is just sheer frustration.
Yeah, well, struggling down in the early 30s. That's a big off there for 20.
That's the high-class car, Tommy Foster.
And that was contact, I think. I only caught the back end of that as I was peering elsewhere on the timing screen.
He was in a battle, I think, with Colin Noble, or was that Max Meyer?
It was the Hubert Porsche. So what happened was that the 20 car jinked to the left in an effort to try and overtake the car in front. So Tommy Foster's battling with who did you think it was immediately in front?
Max Meyer. It was Max Meyer who was in close contention with.
And then the Porsche's kind of got nowhere to go, because it didn't expect Tommy Foster to jink out of the way, but the Porsche driver possibly is at fault as well. Who is that? Manuel Lau. Well, he's mightily experienced, so perhaps just did not expect that sharp left-hand change of direction from Tommy Foster. This is Fossar, Marius Fossar on Cugno for what will, we think, become the race lead. But of course, Fossar's got to do a drive-through penalty yet as well.
Well, Samir Ben, we're still waiting to find out about this pit stop infringement, 40 seconds too short on that one. M Racing's Alexander Cugno, no penalties coming there. Here's the change, though. This was the clean move for the pass for effectively the lead, but he's carrying a penalty as well.
Yes.
He's not done his drive-through yet, has he?
No, he hasn't. He wouldn't be that far up had he done the drive-through, so no.
But that's clearly what they're trying to do, is make the pass, gap him, and reduce the damage.
Yeah. Just thinking about the potential penalty, and we think almost certain penalty for Hegeli by T2 Racing. Race control don't know yet whether Hegeli are going to attempt another pit stop for 2 minutes and 40 seconds, so they can't issue a penalty yet.
Can they change drivers back?
Well, you could, yeah, but the drive time's got to be completed as well.
That's the best news. He's okay. Safety car. That's not a surprise. It's not a place you can easily recover that car and not put marshals in line of fire.
No, that's
so
true.
That's what that's going to be about. Again, remember, this is inexperienced drivers and experienced teams in many regards, and there's going to be a no-risk strategy employed. Safety car it is.
Now, had Marius Fossar planned to come in at the end of this lap to serve his drive-through penalty, he won't be allowed to do that now.
No, he won't.
But the team need to tell him you can't come in and do a drive-through penalty, because it won't count, because we're under safety car. And can they communicate that to him in time is the next question.
Well, it's had its twists and turns. We're approaching the half hour to go. It's 34 minutes to go. Safety car again, this time for recovery of the number 20 high-class racing car. Tommy Foster involved in a tussle whilst in a battle for a top 10 position at Les Combes, tagged by the Proton Huber Porsche into the barriers on the outside and out of the race. The safety car is going to be called for that recovery. This is not going to be good news for the AF Corsa Ferraris, because this is going to allow Karen Gaillard to catch right up.
Yeah, good point. Alessandro Balsan was enjoying a decent lead over Riccardo Agostini, who'd taken over the earlier driven Custodio Toledo Ferrari.
Now, I don't know that we do wave by him.
No, they don't. You don't.
That's disastrous for the Iron Dames.
Because they caught the wrong side of the overall leader.
Well, here's where it's... Let's have a look at this incident again. There's the two battling LMP3. I'm sorry, that's not on the Porsche.
I don't think it is.
Absolutely not on the Porsche at all. Tommy Foster should have had better awareness there that the Porsche was there. I'm afraid he got sucked into the battle he was having and was a bit blind to the traffic around him.
Yeah. And he's gone for the absolute racing line to try and pull off an overtake, and has either forgotten to look or not realised that the Porsche was there. And Manuel Lau, he can't go any further left to avoid the contact.
There is a real unfortunate aspect here for Karen Gaillard. It has picked up the leader. She's been lapped by the leader.
Yes.
So she's going to lose a lap to the two Ferraris.
Yes. Locked into position.
And here's the horrible part of it. As things stand, the three cars that have lapped her, two of them shouldn't be there.
Okay, just run that past me again.
Because the lead car
Samir Ben
should not be in the lead of the race because he's pitted 40 seconds too short.
Yeah.
If the timing and scoring is correct.
Yeah.
The second place car, Racing Spirit Le Mans, Marius Fossard, should have served a drive-through penalty.
By now. And can't because the safety car's out.
Could have done, but can't now.
Well, yes. Has had an opportunity to.
But that's an absolute disaster for the Iron Dames.
I will say that Alexandre Cugnot, who is legally there, has also, though, got ahead of Karen.
He has.
So she would still be locked in that position. But I take the point about the other two cars. And, you know, if you try and bend the rules, or maybe you just, in this case, you hadn't read them in full. Maybe, I mean, it's very easy to send a car by mistake when you're doing the pit stop and the lollipop goes up and you go, oh no, the time hadn't all gone, but it's too late to put the lollipop down. They may have sent that Hegeli car way too early, realised their mistake, and just gone, well, you might as well just push now. We're going to get a penalty, but try and make the best of a bad situation. This is not good for Hegeli, because whatever penalty they do get, it may be after the race now, when the stewards realise, oh, the car didn't do a 2 minutes and 40-second pit stop. But you can't penalise that in the race necessarily, because the stewards don't know that Hegeli aren't going to do another pit stop. It's only something that it's only something that can be governed once everything's done.
Yes.
Anyway, that's what remains of Tommy Foster's car, and so
that's awaiting. The problem there is not an intervention vehicle on that side of the track at that point. That's another reason why a safety car is needed. They will need to bring one of the intervention vehicles from the inside of the circuit.
I have a feeling in his mind he'll be thinking, I've just been taken out of the race, but he'll be shown replays of that, and they'll go.
Look, Tommy is experienced enough to know that's a mistake.
Okay.
I mean, I think what that was, it was heat at the moment stuff. He was looking too much at his battle and less on the surrounding environment. But he's experienced enough, he'll look at that and go, right, I know what I did wrong there.
Yes, but it might be after he's watched it again, because it's very difficult to know precisely. You know,
what the hell happened there?
What's going on behind me? Who did I hit? Who hit me? And only then, when you've been able to chill out a little bit and you're shown the replay, you go, oh, okay, that's how I ended up in the wall. Yeah, that was my fault. It's I don't think we've had a message to say it's being looked at yet, and it won't be a priority because probably the side of the argument that was at fault is out of the race anyway, so they don't need to make that an issue that has to be pursued straight away. So
it all comes down for a moment. Safety car is out for the recovery of the high-class racing number 20 car of Tommy Foster after an incident coming into Le Mans. There it is, and it's going to be lifted to a place of safety, taken back, I'm sure, to Parc Fermé. Under half an hour to go behind the safety car. Samir Ben, with the Hegeli by T2 Racing, Duquesne, the number 67 car, leads the race, but is very likely not to keep that advantage after the team pitted for just 2 minutes and 2 seconds in a race where the bogey time, the minimum pit stop time for the major pit stop, is 2 minutes and 40. Marius Fossard is second in the number 10 Racing Spirit Le Mans. Ligier, of course, it's line astern at this stage, but that car needs to serve a drive-through penalty for a previous incident. Cannot do so under this safety car. M Racing are third. Alexandra Coignot, and of course, Linus Stern. So once those two cars, any penalty coming the way of the Higeli by T2 racing car is going to vault the M Racing car ahead of them, and with a drive-through penalty to come, that is de facto the leader, I think it's fair to say at the moment.
Yep.
Alexandra Coignot from M Racing. Great race from them so far, with both drivers in the number 13 car. Good race as well from A&S Motorsport. What a race they've had. 84 of Paul Trajani. He is fourth and realistically second. And an excellent run from More Motorsport, the Dutch father and son team, Van der Snel family. It's Max Jr. at the wheel, the number 99 car. That car could well score a podium here today. Beyond that, for the remainder of the top 10, Team Virage and their 59 car in the hands of Ricardo Gracia-Filho. That car is sixth. Seventh for Breton Racing and their surviving 62 car. That car is in seventh place in the hands of Theo Jensen. Colin Noble up to eighth place in the Team Tour car. And finally, Team Tour are going to get a lift from this safety car with the other penalties, because that could lift them another couple of places up the order. And they are in contention, are they not, for the championship?
I need to just check that on another screen. Just bear with me a moment.
That's okay.
And also remind me what the numbers you were talking about. The car.
77.
77, right.
So
okay.
28-29, the MV2S racing pair. They're in 9th and 10th place at the moment. So good solid runs from them. A good track in the 28, the 29 car in the hands of Max Meyer. They complete the top 10 as it stands. Give us a moment on Team Tour.
They're not out of it. They've got 25 points coming into this meeting.
But who's ahead of them?
Three other teams on 40, 40 and 47.5. So RHGP out, High Class Racing out, Cool Racing not having a great day.
16th, not in the points.
Yeah, okay. So it takes them back into contention, potentially.
It does. In fact, I think it takes them into the... well, no, it doesn't. It takes them further up the order, certainly. GT3, after the Stellar Motorsport Audi led the first half of the race in the hands of Andrew Bentley. It's been a trickier second half with James Walker now aboard the car. AF Corsa 1-2, Alessandro Balzan, Riccardo Agostini in the 51 and the 88 Ferrari 296s. They lead 1-2 and have a mighty advantage courtesy of this safety car. There they are at the back of the safety car train and have almost put a lap on the field as a result. Third place is the Iron Danes 83 car, trapped behind the overall race leader. There is no wave by. They will stay in third place, but almost a lap down now to the two leading Ferraris. High Class Racing's Nico Menzel, number 18 Porsche, that car flying high and in contention for a podium spot. As is Jason Hart in the Herbeth Motorsport number 92. Let's look again.
Yeah, I mean, the Manuel Lauk-driven Porsche had gone as far across to the left as possible, knew precisely what was going on, but couldn't get out of the throttle in time, couldn't get on the brakes in time. It's not really down to Lauk to evaporate and to find an avoiding approach to the corner when you're effectively driven into by Tommy Foster, and he didn't do that deliberately. He was trying to overtake the car in front, but will maybe regret that manoeuvre now. They're looking at the Armco barrier at Les Combes just to work out whether the integral structure is still intact, because that will be the next concern. The safety car lights are still on, so we're at least in store for one more tour of this 7-kilometre circuit and into the final 25 minutes of today's race. Samir Ben running short of opportunity to pit again. I don't think they plan to at all, but race control will not issue the penalty until much closer to the checkered flag, possibly after the race.
Afterwards.
Yes.
As we said, Manuel Lauk Proton Huber car, my apologies. That car also likely to get a lesser penalty, but a penalty nonetheless 11 seconds short of the bogey time for the compulsory pit stop. Keeping an eye on man we haven't spoken about much so far in terms of his racing.
Last reminder from my side, it's a 5 cars length maximum between cars. 5 cars length maximum between cars.
Darren Turner in the Blackthorn Aston Martin, running 8th in the number 91 car. He is chasing Fran Raider in the number 74 Kessel Racing car. And Raider is with James Walker in this train. The now 6th place Stella Motorsport car, because he has been passed by Jason Hart in the second Porsche, the Herbeth Racing car. There is the Herbeth car. There is James Walker in the Audi, and Fran Raider is the next in that line. So that's a 3-car battle when we get back to green with 23 minutes to go.
Important to retain as much tyre temperature as possible. The track temp still well up there, 39 degrees Celsius currently. It's 29 in the air now. So that's a couple of degrees higher than even the weather forecast predicted. We're going to hear a little more from Gwen Boursier. He was certainly on the radio button there. We heard the chimes, but no message at this stage. And it's the holding pattern for best part of 15-20 minutes now.
In this lap. Safety car in this lap.
Okay. So he was getting the final confirmation.
No overtake before the line. It's a 5 cars length maximum, ladies and gentlemen. 5 cars length maximum.
I don't think the number 10 car can come straight in.
Move to the side.
I think he has to complete a lap.
Okay. That's an interesting one. It's not like the World Endurance Championship rule, or indeed the ELMS rule, in that the first 3 laps you can't pit. It's just the fact that you can't serve a penalty under a safety car. But we wouldn't be under a safety car at the end of this lap. So
we would until he's crossed the line.
Okay, yeah,
that's the point.
I can see where you're coming from.
No overtake before the line. No overtake before the line.
Okay, so maybe a full green lap has to be completed for the second place car.
Green flag, green flag. No overtake before the line.
He's not gone for it, so he is going to complete this lap. But my guess must come in at the end of the next lap to avoid a further penalty.
One car is coming in, at least one, possibly 2, peeling off and heading for pit road.
Team Tour.
No.
It's Colin Noble.
Colin Noble in car 77. So has he all of a sudden got a problem?
It has to be a problem. Has to be a problem.
There'd been nothing about a penalty that needed to be served, and for the same reason, why would he come in still during the safety car period, effectively? Car 73 driver Lauf, a warning flag for abusing track limits. That's nothing to do with what happened at Le Com corner. And now there's a fight on for the race lead, because Marius Fossard's got a very good run on Samir Ben and will go in front. So are we now going to be in the situation where Fossard will come in at the end of this lap from the race lead?
From the race lead, of course, what he's hoping to do is to bottle up the cars behind the Higeli car and reduce the damage to his progress from the time he's going to take on pit lane. Every second counts.
Yep. It's not a bad shout, that. Strangely, here at Spa, going via the pit lane versus staying on the racetrack, it saves you, I think, about 50 metres. However, 60 kph is the speed limit. So it will take you 23 seconds to navigate pit road from in to out.
Nico Menzel all over the Iron Dames Lamborghini in what is a fight for a podium. And so there is the more racing car, the number 99 car, trying to get by and under pressure from behind here.
Lots of dust being kicked off, but everyone's still on the straight and narrow, amazingly. There is Nico Menzel then in the sky blue and black Porsche, pursuing Karen Gaillard for 3rd position in GT3. Colin Noble being shown as sort of separating 2nd and 3rd in GT3, but he's not there in reality. He's parked in the pit lane.
These 3 cars are battling for what could end up to be a podium position. Yep. There's more racing, Team Virage and Breton Racing. So it's Mac van der Snel Jr., Ricardo Gracia Filho and Theo Jensen. We know that 2 cars ahead. Now the 10 car comes down pit lane. 2 cars ahead with penalties to serve. They could be vaulted up the order here.
So one less thing for us to worry about. And to complicate the mixture, if you like, still Samir Ben staying in front of Alexandre Cugnot, but only by 0.6 of a second. Hegeli keep looking at the screens. Surely they know that the game's going to be up at some stage, unless that is an actual timing glitch. But the Hegeli car just wasn't there in the opening stint.
There's nothing they can do about it. Oh,
well, no, true.
The M Racing car runs wide, but nothing they can do. They may just as well finish and take the punishment now.
Yes. Yeah, it's a bit like when you're at the start of a race and you realise you've gone too early, the red lights didn't go out, but you say, well, I'm just going to go and build as big a gap as possible, because the penalty then will not be as severe, if you like.
Just bluff it out and hope that the paperwork takes until after the podium.
Yes. Yeah, you might. You might even be able to stand on the top of the podium. That's a big off there between two P3 cars.
Is that the 58?
It's looked a little bit like the 58.
It
yes.
is the 58.
Very good.
And that car, by the way, was, I think, about to get a technical warning flag.
That is the GG Classics car.
That's way down, but I didn't...
Fraser Ross at the wheel of that after George Nakas started it.
What was the other car?
It'll be another car that was slow through the first sector, but are we now onto the next lap for some of those cars? Or actually rather fast through the first sector and then slow through the second sector, more to the point. So I'll keep an eye out. But the GG Classics car, hasn't yet broken the beam further around the lap, so we'll work it out through a process of elimination. Meanwhile, here are the race leaders back across the line.
I think it was the number 6 of Nico Schatz, the ANS Motorsport car.
1 minute and 8 rather than a minute last time around. Yeah, okay, go with that. And the 70, or rather the 58 car for GG Classics. Has that now done the middle sector? It's way down, so it's difficult to tell. Anyway, we'll focus on things.
63 seconds.
63.
For that carried on, yes.
All right. And we'll get to the end of the lap, although it's carrying significant damage on that car, so we'll need to be tended to.
So here comes the M Racing car. They're going to want to get by here rather than to risk getting stuck in with pit stop. Minimum time is now under investigation. So you can't do it in the final 20 minutes, can you? That's why they can now investigate it.
Yeah, okay.
So I think we will see some penalties before the end of this race to a couple of these runners. 58 car has made it back to the pits. I think was already having to pit for attention. A little bit more attention.
Alexandre Cugnot, second place, needing just really to stay there, and that might be the heads-up way of doing it, unless Paul Trajani gets a little too close for comfort in the ANS Motorsport car. 2.5 seconds of margin at the moment, so if it gets closer, then perhaps Cugnot will be forced to up the pace and then to really start to attack Samir Ben in the closing stages. How much defence will Samir Ben actually put up, I wonder? Now we're going to go to Steph Wentworth, though, for an update, sadly, on Colin Noble's progress.
I am with the number 77 Team Tour, and Colin Noble has just jumped out of the car. Colin, you were on such a good run, so much pace. Just tell us what has gone wrong for you.
Yeah, it was a great pace. The car was really good today. I felt like there's a podium definitely on the cards, but I think we had a cracked radiator. So when it overheated slightly during the safety car, the cracks come and all the water's come out the car. So yeah, engine had no power, so we had to box.
And that's absolutely gutting. We know how well you were running. What can we take from this weekend into the next one in Magellan?
I suppose we were both very quick all weekend and we're at the top of the time charts, and yeah, I guess if it all went to plan, we could have been right at the front. All
right, best of luck next time. Sorry it ended like this. Thank you.
Scant consolation,
so
I suppose, but go on.
Safety car again.
Is it? You're right. Finish your point about Noble, because we'll work out why that is.
They can't buy luck for number one,
well,
but it's almost certainly, you heard what Colin said there, that would have been damage from that turn 1 incident. and it's a minor crack that when the car is then heated up behind the safety car, it's just gone bang.
Yeah, and you get hardly any warning of that.
Yellow
of
at
course.
turn 8 we're seeing. It's the 83 car. It's the 80, it is, looks like it's the Iron Dames.
But the 28's not yet gone into the final sector either. Car 28 being
there is the 83 car in the gravel.
Yeah.
Now, did she jump or was she pushed? Doesn't matter from the Iron Dames perspective. It's not going to be, and also trouble for
car 28, surely.
Yeah, and V2S.
Yeah. So 28 is being driven currently by Vyacheslav Gutak, who doesn't carry a national flag. I think we possibly know the reasons why. Yes. Terence Woodward, his co-driver.
Also, by the way, looks like the number 2 car may be done, the CD Sport car.
Still just trying to get the wording on the 20-minute rule, because it definitely exists, but I'm just trying to work out about the pit stop. Now, that is a major failure, surely, on the front left. That's more than tyre rub for Gutak. But have they clashed with one another?
I saw the end of the incident, was looking at another screen. I'd be grateful to see the replay again for what happened.
Because that's Blanchimont, isn't it?
That's not the same incident. There was another incident that saw a couple of cars off to the inside. 2 car is done. Lots of damage here today.
No further for William Gosselin, and remember that Shehan Sarkissian will have caused some of this damage when there was the collision with RSGP's 85 at the first corner. But the nose was replaced in actual fact, so the bulk of that damage has come after the... Oh, now the towing strop snapped entirely off the back of the 83 Lamborghini.
Well, that's one reason why you don't pull a car through gravel. Yes.
It's got a fairly meaty diffuser on that Lamborghini, hasn't it? So it's just dug into the gravel and will not be argued with, if you like. Are we potentially... No, we're too far away from the chat. I was going to say, are we going to finish this under safety car? But
it depends on how quickly they can get this done. That's not going to help.
We're rapidly running out of towing vehicles, rescue units, all that, because they've been so busy in the opening hour and 39 minutes of this race. And certainly a third of the field has not made it this far, pretty much. Biogas Motorsport Ferrari, the last runner. Is Minair Stefan still circulating in car 44? I think he may be.
Yes.
Yes. And he's going to get ahead of those recent cars out of the race.
You've got to cross the line. So he would be, at this point, if the 58 car doesn't get out of pit lane, he would finish the race 17th.
Yeah.
That's the ACO rule, have to cross the line.
I know, I'm well aware of that, but Minair Stefan, well, for instance, he's just dispatched Karen Gaillard because she's still stranded in the gravel trap. Stefan now ahead, but are you talking about Gutak now? Are you talking about Gaillard or?
Sorry, so the 44 car would finish ahead of both MV2S and GG Classics at the moment. Incident involving cars 2 and 58 under investigation. So that's what finished the race for the 2 car, is an impact. We saw that at Les Combes, but there's been at least 2 further incidents, one of which happened on the exit of Les Combes, which is the incident that accounted for the 28 car, and others were involved. Now let's have a look here. This tyres down, right rear. Right rear tyre.
It's as simple as that. Right rear, and what side of the MV2S car was damaged? Front left. Have they clashed, is my question now. Have they got together and then it's not actually manifested itself in a tyre going pop until a few corners later?
Yeah, we did see, unfortunately, I was unsighted by a different, actually a different screen, the part of the incident, the exit Les Combes, in which I could see the high-class Porsche was in the vicinity, which would indicate that the Lamborghini would have been there and thereabouts.
Yeah. So there's a chance that puncture has been a result of some contact and then trying to tow a Lamborghini backwards through the gravel, which is heavily down on one side anyway because the tyre's got no air in it anymore. That's why they had to lift the Lambo straight out of the stones. Hopefully that initial attempt at towing it has not done further damage, but there's plenty of time to repair that car. Tractor on track again with the rest of the racing field, not for the first time today. It's gone all very Nürburgring this afternoon for the Michelin Le Mans Cup, in the sense that intervention vehicles are no stranger to race traffic in events around the Nordschleife.
Indeed. So the 28 car behind the barriers, the 83 car not far from being on a flatbed. We're then into what cleanup is determined to be necessary and getting those vehicles to places of safety so that racing could restart. We are at 6 minutes to 6 here in the evening. We've got just under 8 minutes to run. And still penalties to come.
Yes.
So at the moment, we have, to get this absolutely right, 27 cars of our initial 39 still running. They've still not managed to lift that Lamborghini.
Well, they've got it to the edge of the gravel track, frustratingly, now using the crane on the flatbed rather than an independent vehicle.
It's in trying to drag it, they've also broken the rear diffuser, I'm afraid.
That was definitely the worry. I don't think that diffuser's been broken in the process of the tyre going down, has it? Because they're very, very strong pieces of carbon fibre, generally, the diffuser, but certainly dragging it through gravel.
Well, either drag it through forwards in its... So we regain a car. 58, I'm hearing from Steph Wentworth on pit lane, is coming out. Now, is that just a tyre?
Or more substantial
Difficult to, because
damage.
it looks like it's delaminated, so the fact that it's not in line is not necessarily the fact that there's any further damage, but was it just a tyre? Max from Stella Motorsport gives us a wave. Gary Blackham in the background. Man with long experience in motorsport. Goes back to Frank Bieler.
Oh, wow.
British touring cars.
Yeah.
I think he was team manager for that.
Was he really? That would have been 1996. With the Audi A4s. They were four-wheel drive, those cars, I seem to remember.
Involved after that with the early days of the Audi LMP program, early days of the Bentley LMP program.
Safety car has been instructed to go full speed. Safety car has been instructed to go full speed. 5 cars length gaps maximum. 5 cars length gaps maximum.
Yeah, well, that rule's very clear to me. I'm still surprised that it doesn't seem to be clear to absolutely everybody in the race, but Gwen Boursier making the point again. Now picking up the speed.
Well, look, the field is compressed. There are places to be made up here, and the biggest places to be made up are the overall podium positions in LMP3 and some of the spoils in GT. Was just watching there with James Walker in the Stella car. Manuel Lauk trying to get some heat in the tyres of the Proton Hooper car, and Darren Turner right there too. So we might get a lap 2 here to finish this race, and there could be dramas. There you go, there is the Stella car, there is the Proton Hooper car, then Blackthorn, then the Kessel car. David Fullanelli, he's no slouch either. When you look at the two Corsa cars, they're together.
Maximum. 5 cars lengths maximum. Please instruct
team
your
orders
drivers.
There? Any team orders there?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? They have to think maybe at this level, perhaps not, because yes, they're from the same awning, but they are very different initiatives, generally speaking.
But a shake-up, by the way, in the order behind, and I think that's what's happened here. I did see
safety car in this lap.
Safety car in this lap. The high-class racing Porsche in that flurry at Les Combes, and that high-class racing car has dropped from 3rd to 5th. So Nico Menzel is now behind Fran Rader and Jason Hart. Jason Hart with Herbeth Motorsport is in a podium position.
He is. And if it goes very, very wrong for AF Corsa, could be in an even better position than that, because Alessandro Balzan, Riccardo Agostini are totally together and will be catching this line of cars, because Samir Ben has decided not to go quite yet. He's bunching everybody up behind, and then he will govern the pace in a moment or two. Car number 67 in front on the road as we speak, but only there, we think, because they did a shorter pit stop than most other people by about 40 seconds.
No overtake before the line.
Here's the green flag.
Before the line.
Going to be waved in a moment, but is there going to be a lead change before? Well, there can't be, of course. No overtaking permitted.
Should be 2 laps.
2 laps from this point on. 3 minutes left on the clock as the green flag is waved. And Alison Cugnot, how hard does he push here? Has he had the message from his engineer at M Racing that you can effectively ignore the car ahead in that Dayglow yellow on the Duquet?
I think he has at this point, but he can't afford to now, because, oh, there's a spin. There's a spin. Was that the M Racing car?
No, Cugnot's still there. It is
A&S?
Trajani. It's Paul Trajani in the A&S car, which was third and is no longer third. And here's Cugnot's best opportunity to date. He darts to the right, he darts to the left. And can the Samir Ben-driven car from Hegerli by T2 Racing hold back Cugnot? He has the better racing line into Le Com corner, as in it's the inside line, and Samir Ben, assuming he stops the car sufficiently, he has done, stays in front. Grins again from his teammate Pierre de Curtens.
Look at in the background, the Moore Racing car. They can sniff a fantastic result here for the tiniest team in the paddock, the number 99 car. It's double yellows at turn 1. Let's hope it's just that one car involved in it.
So Cugnot shown as the race leader. That's because he was meters ahead, centimetres ahead possibly at the end of the Camel Straight, but could not get the overtake completed. So it is still a Duquesne leading a Ligier on the road at least. And there's the information. It's a 37-second stop-and-go penalty for the Hegerli by T2 Racing car of Samir Ben and Pierre de Curtens. They've done their pit stop too short, and the car will have to come in and serve the penalty. Not a surprise.
No. Oh, trouble. It's the Audi and into Europol off the road. Now this is going to be a safety car to finish.
I think it has to be. And now the question is, well, Hegerli can't get in the pit lane because has the safety car been called? No, not quite. So they will be permitted to go down pit road here. But that was at turn 9. Jackie Ickx corner, Speaker's corner, Audi in the gravel. The Hegerli car's not going to pit, of course.
Oh, trouble there again. It's the MV2S car now, the 29.
That is Max Meyer. And therefore Marius Fossar gains position, and Felipe Fernandez Laza moves up a spot. Nicholas Bourne as well, and it does benefit David Drew.
Double yellows at turn 9. James Walker out the race.
Which of the two into Europol competition cars? It can only be the 43 because the 34 is already out.
Yes.
So the 43 now stranded on the curb.
58's out the race.
And that was already carrying damage from its incident at Le Com when the GG Classics car had a collision. Still racing for the time being.
The clock has expired.
So we're on the last lap, but what on earth happens when we all arrive at Jackie Ickx corner and there's a car off on the curb? I suppose they'll be covering it with double waved yellows.
Could the 99 pull off a miraculous win here? M Racing cannot get by. That's cramping their style.
Here's the double wave yellow, so no overtaking, and be prepared to stop with a car stranded on the curb. Let's hope they all get through here safely. Well over to the left. Tim Kresick's out of the car, I think, so that's... Thankfully you can draw breath because of that. The door is open and everyone's got by that incident scene with two cars off the road.
Nico Menzel up to 4th. Jason Hart drops 2 places. Kessel Racing, Fran Rader into 3rd place in GT3. It'll be no more than that because we're a lap down to, or more or less a lap down to the 2 AF Corsa cars. But What happens here? 6 cars in the train behind the car carrying a 37-second penalty. Surely it's not going to be that car that determines the race result.
Stranger things have happened. Alexander Cugnot doesn't need to overtake the 67 car, rather. With its penalty hanging over it, they'll translate that into a post-race penalty, therefore. And Cugnot, what's he going to do here? Surely not going to go for the overtake.
Inside,
further back, change for second, as the 67 car almost went to the pit lane, and Cugnot is going to win on the road to firmly cement the victory for car number 13, and M Racing for Romano Ricci and for Alexandre Cugnot. They're going absolutely spare down in the garage there, as that is confirmed at M Racing.
In the final corner, more racing bundled out of a podium position, in a position where they could have taken the win. Well, well, well.
So that was Breton Racing getting ahead of Cool Racing and also More Motorsport,
Well,
was it?
More Motorsport
was
running
third.
second into the bus stop. With side-by-side contact going to the first element, and more side-by-side contact with a second car coming through the second element. Lost 2 places in 2 corners.
I hope we'll get to revisit that run into the final corner eventually. There's also going to be an 11-second stop-and-go penalty for car 73. That we'd identified that as well, had we not. The short pit stop for the Proton Uber competition Porsche of Jörg Dreysoff and Manuel Lauch. Lauch, of course, involved in the collision.
That's not yet been added to the timing, but the Higeli by T2 racing car has, and that dropped to 17th place.
Costly. So it's a drive-through, which is normally 30 seconds, and then you add another 11 seconds, and maybe a bit more, actually. And it all becomes a bit academic then, once you've tumbled down that far. But let's concentrate on how important it was for M Racing to take a victory to give them a boost partway through the season. Alexandre Cugnot, who's been a talent wanting to be unearthed for years, frankly. Romano Ricci, bronze, as we mentioned, and that in a sense is a surprise as well. That's the ANS Motorsport car spinning as they started the final lap of the race. Now watch this. James Walker was off.
Wow. I think there'd already been contact with somebody else. I think he'd been hit coming through Jackie X corner. That spun him around, and
that's popped a radiator on Tim Kresick's car, because you can see the steam.
Kresick was completely innocent there, I think.
Okay.
And this was the final turn. It's the action behind here. No, this is the penultimate turn. That was the 29 car on the penultimate lap.
Yes.
But then there was multiple contacts on the final couple of turns on the final lap. And the big losers were the 99 car.
Miklas Born now under investigation as well for track limits, so there may be an even later penalty for the number 50 car from Reiter Engineering that Miklas shares with Horst Felbermayr. Well, there is no shortage of action, of last gasp moments, but again, questionable driving standards throughout, you have to say.
I have to agree.
And even when the warnings were there, and even when we had incidents, you wave the cars back to green flag conditions and don't have to wait that long for the next problem. So yes, the early days of Michelin Le Mans Cup, it reminds me kind of that. We came out of that, and there's a danger we're going back towards it again.
I think we've got another drama coming. After the flag.
Right, go on.
Race winner in GT3, Alessandro Balzan, under investigation for track limits.
Yes. And under investigation nearly always results in a penalty. Wow, M Racing win, AF Corsa potentially win in GT3. It's been quite an afternoon in the Michelin Le Mans Cup as we got racing here at Spa-Francorchamps. The first corner here at Spa, as you will know, is a tight right-hand hairpin. And partly to do with that, partly to do with some eagerness from various drivers up and down the order, carnage ensued, it's fair to say. RHGP began the race from pole position, but there was a thump from behind from Shahan Sarkisian's CD Sport car, and the RHGP car would spin, as would Tony Wells' number 7 machine. Also the 97 of Adrian Schiller did not get away cleanly and held up Christian Short in the second of the CD Sport cars. But look out for Shahan Sarkisian in the red and yellow, just catching the tail of the RSGP car. It then went backwards and spun Tony Wells around. Tony would not be able to go any further. Custodio Toledo then ran right across the nose of the Tony Wells stranded car to do, well, not too bad damage to the 88. It would eventually finish second on the road in an AF Corsa 1-2 finish, as things stand at least. Then a nasty incident involving two LMP3s right at the end of one of the laps. Josh Cagill had nowhere to go and ran right into the nose of Giorgio Kolovos, who'd already made a mistake. Really good side-by-side action in the early stages of GT3 and between lots of different manufacturers, which is promising for the balance of performance setup in the GT3 ranks for Michelin Le Mans Cup. The Audi, driven by Andrew Bentley, setting the pace in the GT3 category. This, for Tommy Foster, was a high speed off. I hadn't realised he'd actually hit the concrete first of all, and then into the Armco barrier afterwards, after he misjudged an overtake and didn't actually account for Manuel Lauck's Porsche being in the position that it was. Marius Fossard late on the brakes down the inside of Alexandre Guignot, but after this, Fossard would need to serve a drive-through penalty, which took the gold and black car out of the proceedings. Tommy Foster disconsolate as he walked away, assessing the damage on his number 20 car. Then a high-speed spin for the 18 Porsche from I-Class Racing. Various other incidents still being looked at, even at this point after the race. Huge amount of tyre smoke from the number 29 car, and that would not get much further than the third sector. And this bizarre moment, it looked like maybe just a tyre going down for Karen Gaillard, but on the approach to Blanchimont, the fastest part of this Spa-Francorchamps circuit. So spinning like a top, the Lamborghini ending up in the gravel. Thankfully, Karen was okay after she'd taken that Lamborghini over from starting driver Celia Martin. Throughout all of this, you wondered where on earth to look next, and as the cars were waved out of a final safety car period, ANS Motorsports car spinning coming out of La Source. Pierre de Curtins thought the Hegerli by T2 Racing car was going to win the race. However, they were only in the lead after doing a 2-minute pit stop when it should have been 2 minutes and 40, according to the minimum pit stop reference time. So, Alexandre Guignot and Romano Ricci win for M Racing, and at the moment it's an AF Corsa 1-2, 51 ahead of 88 in GT3.
As you can see, the mood is very good down here in the pit lane. I'm with the winners of the LMP3, the number 13, M Racing. Congratulations, guys. Romano, let's start with you. You started off the race, quite a chaotic start, wasn't it? And you managed it perfectly.
Yeah, quite a good start. Turn 1 is always a bit tricky here. And I guess I had a little bit of luck, and then I had a good pace to run away. And after that, I think we ran a little bit high in terms of tire pressure. So after the end of the stint, the guy from the back came a little bit back. I think we did a good job. It's always a pleasure to win. It's been some time. We're in the business, and first win, I guess, in the Michelin and the LMS, so very happy.
Congratulations, Alex. You finished off the race. It was almost a photo finish, you know, right to the end of the line, and you said that's what we love to see during racing, isn't it?
Yeah, it was hard in the car until the last corner. I knew that the man in front of me will have a penalty. So I was trying to manage my second place, but the third one was really fast. So until the last corner, I wasn't sure I will win, but we won. So it's so good, so good. I'm so happy.
Enjoy the podium, guys. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's how much it means to a duo who've been racing with each other for a long, long time.
By the way, in answer to a couple of social media comments, why has Romano Ricci got Juliet has a gun on his overalls? Romano is a parfumier, and it is a brand of perfume.
Okay.
That's what it is, and he's been around for a long time. XWC driver in LMP2, of course, Romano Ricci, back in the day with Labra. They drove the perfect race.
Yes, they did.
pretty much everybody else didn't.
Whilst all those around you are losing their heads, make sure that you hold on and keep yours, and that's precisely what they did. And they didn't get distracted, they didn't get drawn into battles that weren't necessarily of their interest. It was fascinating to me about actually Cunha was measuring his pace to Samir Ben and knowing, well, I don't need to overtake this car because it's going to get penalised eventually. Funnily enough, he did find that way by as they threaded their way through the bus stop chicane on the final opportunity. So it was nice to see the 13 car actually in front of everyone as he came across the line and took the checkered flag. But
by the way, 62 Breton Racing, that's a debutant team this season, and great result for Czech team. And Theodor Jensen, I think, is making his debut in the Michelin Le Mans Cup this weekend. Cool Racing, Adrian Twazemil in third. That's they're the gaps at the end. They're tight because, of course, we had that safety car right at the end of the race. More Motorsport will feel unlucky to have finished off the podium. Great run from them.
It was.
Fourth it may have been. Could have been a win at one point, but impressive stuff from another debutant team. Rinaldi Racing lost one car more or less at the beginning of the race, effectively. They'll come home with fifth. Racing Spirit Le Mans sixth after a stumble and a drive-through. Team Virage, another team with one of their cars in trouble. Eventually, eighth place for Writer Engineering. I think they'll take that. A&S Motorsport will be gutted not to have finished on the podium with their second car. The 84 car dropped out of contention. Top 10 completed by the slow-starting Cool Racing car. GT3, we don't know.
No, it's all up in the air at this stage because there are still investigations ongoing, and that's crucial because it actually involves the championship leaders as well, who have won on the road, however, under investigation for track limits, and that so often leads to a penalty.
But the point being is, because they gained so much an advantage behind the safety car, Alessandro Balzan will finish no lower than second. It will only be a drive-through.
Which is 30 seconds. Yeah, OK. And the 30 seconds gap back to, what are we talking, the third place Kessel Racing car, a Fran Rueda.
Who is well over a minute back.
Not even, well, he's not on the lead lap, crucially. So you can only penalise someone so far. They won't go down towards...
They'll be second.
Well, that's precisely because they're locked into the 39th lap.
Correct.
You can't then put them back onto the 38th lap.
You can't. So it will be of course, a 1-2 in whatever order.
Perhaps in the other order.
Kessel Racing power their way to a hard-fought third place, as again around them, one or two of the other cars faltered. Notably, Stella Motorsports off, having led the first half of that race and led it well. High Class Racing's Nico Menzel clearly I think was involved in the incidents that accounted for the MV2S car. He was certainly in that order, and that dropped him behind a couple of other cars, including the Kessel Racing car and Herbeth Motorsports' Jason Hart, and he fought his way back past one of them, but not the other, could not get back to the podium. That was a race of attrition. A race that I'm sure a lot of people involved in it up and down the pit lane will be mightily irritated by.
It almost feels like the mood that we had at the end of the first Road to Le Mans race, where it only ran to kind of 4 laps, and we had an order at the end of that, but then it completely changed because of the count back. And you go, what on earth has just happened? Can we watch that race another 10 times to fully digest the various stories up and down the order? But at the end of the day, you get a result. It will be locked into position just as soon as all of the various investigations have taken place. And it looks on paper to be a very, very tight finish, but that's because of the safety cars and the full, mainly safety cars. We had just safety car after safety car during a period of that race.
Yeah, confirmed, by the way, the 28 MV2S car and the 18, the High Class Racing Porsche, did collide at Les Combes, and that's what caused the damage to the MV2S and the delay for the 18.
The 18 being, remind me,
the High Class Porsche
car.
Nico Menzel's car.
But remember, Nico Menzel had a big spin at Les Combes. Maybe that was as a result of it as well.
But, well, good luck on picking that one, race reporters.
Also, they're going to have to be highlights packages of one has already been made on the fly, but looking back on that race, yeah, it will be fascinating to work out precisely all of the events and in the particular order, and still they're picking through the race results as well to make sure that the podium is as correct as possible.
We have not seen a result to that track limits announcement on our screens yet. So the key here is this going to be a podium run to results as we currently have it, where some adjustments have been made, but not all of them.
First podium.
Where are your points?
I think that puts us to P5.
Discussions being had down at in the LMP3 ranks and in various other places too. Was that Adrian Klossmann, in fact, for the 87 crew?
That was...
Talking about another podium. So, anyway, M Racing with the win. Breton Racing second. Cool Racing third. But it's not the 97 crew.
That's James Sweetman.
Oh, it's James, beg your pardon. Right. OK. James started the 87 car, so Adrian Klossmann, his teammate, hence my confusion.
Yep.
It is another podium, and they managed to bag that literally at the penultimate corner. So it pays, does it not, to be really heads up toward, you know, until the flag is shown. And if you can overtake at the very last corner or the penultimate corner, all of a sudden your points haul goes from 12 to 15, and those 3 points could be crucial come the end of the season.
Again, looking at the role of this championship as a development series, there's 3 lessons these teams should be taking from this. One is you've got to be clean on track. You've got to be, or it's disaster. That means track limits, contact, all of it. The second thing is you've absolutely got to know the rules and be clean on pit lane. And several teams fell foul of that today. You've got to know the rules. And that is the biggest lesson for all of these teams is mistakes tend to be made that cause you to have to serve a penalty, and you're then out of it.
Yeah. We don't know whether we'll ever know why that big mistake was made at Hegeli by T2 Racing. Was it just a glitch with whoever was holding the lollipop and lifted it and then thought, oh no, that's too early, and the car has already gone?
Miscommunication.
Because you hear about breaching a pit stop reference time by a second or two, and was in the case of the Huber competition Porsche,
11 seconds.
They did it by 11 seconds, okay. But then when you're in the realms of 40 seconds, which was Hegeli today, how on earth do you get to that situation? But yeah, like you say, it might be in a bit of mixed radio traffic, some lost in communication messages, and very easily you could be in that situation. So James Swettenham and Adrian Klossmann, the first 2 drivers, welcome to the podium. This is for LMP3. They'll go to the far end to the 3rd step. Second place to Breton Racing and the 62 duo, who are Ben Stone and Theodore Jensen, a very late signing indeed for the Czech Republic team. But the win will go to M Racing's Alexandre Cugnot and Romano Ricci, who started things off just after 4 o'clock this afternoon.
Ivan Muller on the podium.
And Ivan Muller will also occupy the top step. Let's hear the national anthem of the winning team.
Félicitations Romano Ricci et Alexandre.
A very quick blast indeed of the French national anthem for M Racing. Ligier, Ligier, Ligier are the podium. The best Duquesne in the end, way down. It was the penalised Hegeli by T2 Racing car. And despite that, some of the Duquesnes actually looked quite quick this weekend. You can't account for the incident that involved Josh Cahill to put him out of the race, and Fabien Michal as well. We never got to see how quick that RHGP Duquesne might have been.
So delight for the Cool Racing guys. That's going to help them along their road. Delight unlimited for Breton Racing, and absolute delight for M Racing. First win in Michelin Le Mans Cup. Ivan Muller, of course, his own storied career in motorsport, and continues now as a team owner. That's 2 race wins for M Racing today.
Yes, yeah, earlier on in the Ligier European Series, and now backing that up. Yeah, they've not got any cars in the LMS, have they?
No, they've not.
Not this year. But there is scope to potentially continue this wave of momentum in the final few races. Van Muller's absolutely soaked. But it is a warm day, so he'd probably be grateful.
I think, is it 5 podiums this weekend? Did they get both cars on the podium in both races in Malaysia European Series? They won with the 83 car in the second race. The 83 car, I think, was on the podium. No, she finished 4th, did she not?
I thought she was getting a penalty late on in the first race.
Finished 4th.
So, no. But it might be 4 podiums.
But it's been a heck of a weekend.
He'll be glad he came after all this.
Yes, indeed.
Made the effort. And you and I went down to the Ligier European Series area of the paddock yesterday evening, and there was a big smile from Ivan as he waved over to us. And here are the points, by the way. Still the 97 car will lead heading to Mugello, even though car 97, I mean, where did they finish? 10th. So they got a point.
But it brings the 87 car back into some form of contention. OK, they're 18 points off. We've got 50 points left. And with the kind of, how could we put this, topsy-turvy form that we can see in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, this ain't done until the checkered flag in Portimao.
Adrian Schiller, David Drew, 49.5 points because of that first Road to Le Mans race that was given effectively quarter points. Alexandre Cugnot, Romano Ricci, today's winners are 1.5 points ahead of Fabien Michal and Adrien David, who are spectacular on a Saturday afternoon, early afternoon, when they qualify the car, but then have really struggled for any race luck, particularly today. Gordon Goodmanson, Colin Noble, another retirement today. They're still on 25 points as we work our way through the rest of that slide.
I was going to say, by the way, as we saw that Turn 1 incident again, you could see where the damage had been done to the side of the Team Tour car. It was hit on that side by the CD Sport car. That's clearly where the seeds were sown for a disaster. Here's the podium for GT3, Johnny.
Fran Raider, Andrew Gilbert 3rd, but it's the Italian national anthem for an AF Corsa 1-2. In which order, who knows? I say in which order because we still haven't heard whether there's a penalty for car 51 or not. If there is, they'll give them a 30-second drive-through penalty, or a 30-second penalty, which should have been a drive-through penalty in the race. That'll put Matt Kurzajewski and Alessandro Balzan behind their teammates in the number 88 car. Either way, it's a great points haul for AF Corsa, but they can't fall any further than second position.
Yeah, ex-IMSA GTD champion Alessandro Balzan is not smiling on that podium. I think he knows what's coming.
I have to agree. And the grins are actually coming from the second step of the podium for Custodio Toledo and Riccardo Agostini, who drove a superb race, and they did keep out of trouble. Very close indeed between those two Ferraris as they crossed the line. Just a tenth and a bit, in fact, and that was a racing speed finish. The champagne will spray. They've got the trophies in front of them, and they might just have to, in a gentlemanly way,
hand them back over.
Hand them to the reverse drivers, if you like. Do a swap after the podium and say, well, fair enough. We've still managed to get 18 points in the case of Balzan and Kurzajewski. But as things stand, we're going to give you the points in a moment or two, assuming the 51 car has won the race, with news to follow on that. But it's a good result, nevertheless, for Fran Raider and Andrew Gilbert in the 74 Kessel Racing Ferrari. They also had to take a drive-through penalty because of track limits. You might remember when Andrew Gilbert was driving in the opening stint. So plenty from Kessel Racing at ground level, watching the podium proceedings take place. And now a nice group shot for the AF Corsa photographers and potentially mechanics as well if they're using their phones. So here, now this assumes the 51 car has won the race and rockets them into an even bigger lead. 89.5 points is the gap now, back to Kessel Racing's number 74. but it could be a better picture for 88, because if they're given the win, that'll be 7 extra points.
So that would put them second.
Yes.
14 points closer.
Yes. But still, you know, it's the 51 car. I'm not saying it's job done, but it's a nice margin to have with 2 rounds still to go.
Absolutely right.
Alessandro Balzan, Matthew Kurzajewski are clear by 46 points over Andrew Gilbert and Fran Rueda. Custodio Toledo, Riccardo Agostini ahead of David Fuminelli and Fred Jose in the number 12 Ferrari, equal on points in fact with Nick Jones. And Celia Martin, Karen Gaillard, 6th position in the Drivers' Championship on 27 points, ahead of Scott Malvern, who was not in action this weekend. My thanks to Graham Goodwin from Johnny Palmer, signing off from Spa. Join us tomorrow for the ELMS. So quite a day here at the Michelin Le Mans Cup, starting in glorious conditions, and we managed to keep those throughout. However, I'm afraid the incidents began in a frenzy from the off, and this race will be one that is certainly in the memory banks, but not necessarily always for positive reasons for so many of the competitors, the mechanics, the engineers, teams in good positions, and it all went very, very wrong, either through punctures, through contact, through penalties. More to come, though, in about a month's time. It'll be the Mugello race for the Michelin Le Mans Cup from Italy. Bye for now.